Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call Tampa City Council to order. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Miranda. Maniscalco. Hurtek. Young. Vieira. Carlson. Clendenin.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to recognize Chris to clear the count. Yep, there you go.
Good evening, Council. For the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. We do have 3 items this evening to clear off the agenda. We'll start with item number 2. This is file number VAC 2609. The applicant is requesting a continuance to June 25th, 2026.
Can I get a motion, please? We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item number 2. Okay. The ayes have it unanimously.
Great. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Our second item is item number 3. This is file number REZ 25116. The applicant on this particular item sent an email into council yesterday requesting a continuance to the July 23rd.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Viera, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. That's July 23rd, 2026.
And that's their first?
That is their first
Request?
request,
For
yes.
both?
For the second item, correct.
Correct.
And they're asking for a 180 waiver as well. Yes, if we can clear that up.
You want me to make that motion?
Yes, please.
So, for which, number 2 or
Number
three?
2, that would be, yes, 25-116.
So for, I make a motion for VAC 26-09 to waive the 180-day.
Oh, no, that's for.
Wait, no. This
item
is
two,
number 3, 25.
Yeah, item
116.
3, it's the
You
second.
said item 2. Sorry.
My apologies. Second item that we're clearing.
Okay.
Item 3.
So for REZ 25-116, I waive the 180-day.
I-
And
Wait, but did we do the continuous, when we did the continuous, did we do the address?
We did.
What, not for 2 either? She's doing the third. I didn't hear it.
We'll clean it up.
I didn't hear it for 3 either, I
We'll
don't think.
clean it up. Okay, so I have a motion on item number 3, which is REZ 25-116, to waive the 180-day requirement. From
And-
Councilwoman Hurtek.
and to renotice.
Okay, and to renotice. A second from Councilman Viera. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Clerk, could you please read the address for the continuation of item number 3?
But it's going to be renoticed.
So, I'm sorry?
Yeah, but they still want to read for
Okay.
the record.
Okay. So item number 3 is REZ 25-116 is being continued to July 23rd, correct?
Correct.
July 23rd. And the address would,
What time, please?
That would be
oh, sorry. Well, I do the address first.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
The address first is Old City Hall located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602. The time will be 5:01 p.m.
Thank you, clerk. Okay, next.
Did we do the address on number 1?
Yeah, I need to go back to number 2. And
Number 2.
so for number 2, VAC 2609, also to renotice.
Okay, well, this one is, we've already continued it. How do you want to clean that one up,
Well-
Mr. Shelby?
Could we hear from Mr. Hudson, please?
Mr. Hudson?
Tyler Hudson, 400 North Ashley Drive. The vacating was properly noticed. The accompanying rezoning was not, so I don't think there's a need to renotice the vacating to June 25th. I would just ask that perhaps the clerk read the address. We are going to renotice item 12, and I'll talk about that when you all get there, but just to make sure that Ts are crossed and Is are dotted, if we could move item number 2, that vacating, to June 25th, and whatever address reading and time reading is required, I would ask that the
So
clerk.
I think we just cleaned this up because we've already continued it to June 25th. I think, clerk, could you please read the date and time for item number 2, please?
And location.
Okay, for item number 2, the file number VAC 2609, the time would be 5:01 p.m. The address is Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you, clerk.
June 25th.
Okay. And Chris, one more.
For the record, Christopher DeBonch, Development Coordination. Our third and final item is item number 12. It's file number REZ 2628. This was a misnotice, and so we're requesting to have it removed, this item removed from tonight's agenda.
We have a motion from Councilman Viera, second from Councilman Miranda. Mr. Hudson, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, Tyler Hudson, for the record. As I was saying, we would ask that this be continued, or we asked would this be heard on June 25th. We are noticing for that date with council's approval. So we ask that that also be on June 25th. Thank you.
So this would be misnoticed, so it's actually removed from the schedule. Which
It is, but also as part of the motion, you can do to reschedule it for the particular date that's being asked for, June 20.
Yes, sir, June 25th.
June 25th.
Okay, so we want to reschedule because of the misnotice to June 25th, 2026. Does that work for you? Does that work for y'all?
We've spoken with staff. They're comfortable with the request.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody's good?
Just need a date, time, and location.
Hearing no rejections from the staff table? Is that, is my motion and my second still good for that? To reschedule to June 25th? Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Viera, second from Councilman Miranda. Clerk?
Okay,
Is there a vote?
Oh, I haven't voted yet. I thought she showed me, was trying to get my attention. Oh, no, we haven't voted yet, so all those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? Okay, clerk?
Okay. So time would be 5:01 p.m. The address is located at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
That's June 25th, 2026. Thank you very much. 5:01 p.m., she said that part. Okay, very good. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? A motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, ayes have it. Item number 1.
Good evening, Council. Eric Cotton, Development Coordination. Believe it or not, we're getting almost to the end of the July 2025 cycle.
Oh, we have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco to open public hearing, second from Councilman Bier. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, clerk.
Eric Cotton, Development Coordination for the July 2025 cycle. Just so Council knows, we're bifurcating this. There's going to be a hearing tonight on some of the items. Next Thursday during the daytime hearing, I'll be back for the changes to the subdivision and planning regulations that are also mandated by the state. And then on June 4th, we're going to bring them all back together to get the July cycle, the July 2025 cycle, hopefully adopted on June 24th. So, but I just want to go ahead and start. So as council knows, there's 2 cycles a year. We're working on the July 2025 cycle. As we stated previously, we're trying to slow down the cycles as we're getting, because of the new code update that will hopefully be adopted within the next year or so. This is where we are right now, May 14th. Council first reading for the following changes. The first one was a motion by City Council. This was to change the channel district to allow for, increase the height to FAA, HCAA, and to allow for an increase in the FAR with bonus. Basically, the language that will be in the code changes to table 19-2 to allow for the height to be, like I said, to be FAA and HCAA, and the maximum FAR to be up to 10.5 with bonus. Basically, west of Channel Side Drive, east of Meridian, and within the channel district boundaries as a whole. The next were, in summary, the special street setbacks. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first. The special street setbacks in this city, they've been in the code since the 50s. Now, these were certain streets within the city of Tampa had specific setbacks that were allowed, that were increased above the typical setback for the property itself. So you could be zoned RS50, have a 20-foot setback, but the special street setback may require you to be 32 feet back from the property line. Special street setbacks are measured from the center line of the road, depending upon what road you're on, depends upon how far back you would have to actually be. As I said, they've been in the code since the 50s. The city's striving not to be auto-centric. We have multimodal, we have bikes, we have the little scooter things, we have electric bikes, so we're trying to get away from being auto-centric. We work with mobility. In those discussions, they don't see a need for the special street setbacks anymore. If we did need to take property or utilize property that would expand a road, if we got to that point again, we'd have to go through the typical process of expanding the roadway. The next one was also staff initiated, only because the state preempted us. A couple of years ago, council was encouraging EV. We amended our code to EV, and then the state just initiated did a text amendment that preempted us from regulating that. They reserved that for themselves. And then the last one is also a state preemption, which is certified recovery residents. This is being amended to all the different use tables throughout the city. As you can see, there's 4 different levels, ranging anywhere from being run by the people themselves. They live there as a family. They've been discharged from a more intensive treatment program. Now they're transitioning back into a typical day of life of sobriety and living on their own again, all the way up to being in a more intensive home treatment place where you get counseling on site. Outpatient treatment is not allowed. Inpatient treatment outside of a counseling session is not allowed on site. All treatment and outpatient therapy all has to be done outside of the home itself. I think Ms. Surtek has a
We wait
question.
for your presentation is complete. Are you done?
Yes, sir. I do have one last slide, which is basically the different use tables that are being amended, which is all the different use tables within the city of Tampa, outside of the MAP district, because this would not have been allowed in the MAP anyway, because you can't do residential.
Okay.
Now I'm done.
That concludes your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you for putting that right back up.
Yes.
So would this still require those recovery residences to be in certain zones?
Nope.
Or is this allowed citywide, any residence?
They are allowed citywide, any residents. They have to go through a process. The Florida statute requires a reasonable accommodation to be made for these kinds of uses. We already have that on our code under 2762. So they would apply to the zoning office. We would review the request, and if they meet the criteria set forth, we would be approving them.
So basically, we are now going to have to be allowed to have a recovery residence anywhere and anywhere. I mean, so a house next to you could become a recovery residence without any thought because of the state.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hope you all are telling your friends. Wow.
Councilman Miranda. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to know, have we done any studies, or you have any ability to find out if this is somewhere else now, what's the action on it? What's the percentage of success?
If anyone else has implemented this yet?
Yeah.
Well, the state required it to be implemented January 1st, 2026. I have not seen anything in any documentation of any other local governments that have processed any of these yet. We may be the first, we may be the last, I don't know, but this was a preemption from the state, but we have not, nobody has reached out to the zoning office to say, hey, how are you all handling this at this point?
And the next question would be, how do you handle this if something goes wrong? Does the state give you
Well, I mean, the state is a reasonable accommodation.
I understand.
Does the state have? I'll let Dana opine on that one, because I'm not sure the answer to that.
Dana Crosby, Collier City Attorney's Office. There are some remedies in the state law. The state law passed in 2025. It was the Certified Recovery Residence Act. And there are some remedies in the state law if there is a problem with a residence. Let me see if I can grab that bill real quick. We were tracking it all session. Of course, now I can't find it. Here it is, Senate Bill 954. The ordinance, and ours does, may include provisions for the revocation of a granted accommodation of a certified recovery residence for cause, including but not limited to a violation of the conditions of approval or lapse, revocation or failure to maintain certification or licensure required under this section if not reinstated within 180 days. So that was the language that the state allowed us to put in there. There's the beginning of it, the yellow at the very bottom, starting on line 84. So we did include that in our ordinance as well.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
So then my question is, what are the provisions for the revocation of a granted accommodation? What did we put in? What is our language?
I do have the ordinance right here, but it doesn't have line numbers. We've tracked the language of the state law. Let's see. As we created, if you go to the very end of the ordinance, we created a brand-new section in the code that's 282.31, and that is, that's our new section that addresses certified recovery residences. As Eric said, it refers you to the definition in 2743. It also refers you to the reasonable accommodation in 2762. And then in our section, our new 282.31, you can see that we copied the language from the state law into our ordinance, subsection F at the very top.
Okay.
That doesn't really answer the question though, for cause. If the applicant violates the conditions of approval, has a lapse, revocation, or failure to maintain, does that mean that it's pulled immediately? I mean, we have such a problem with code enforcement already for some of these types of properties. So I just want to make sure that we have a solid way to deal with problem properties before we create yet another group that could possibly be problem properties.
Yeah, and we can definitely establish that as we work through this process, setting this up as to how the reports and whatnot would come in. It would start with codes.
It would start with a code enforcement violation, and if we get one of these in this city and they go through the process, we would, depending upon which level of home they are, I mean, I don't know if the people are really concerned with probably level number one, probably not gonna be that big of an issue, but as you go through the other levels, they might become bigger issues. We would be applying through the approval process conditions that would have to be addressed. And if they violate those, we would take them through the code enforcement process. And the hearing officer or the special magistrate for the hearing, for the code enforcement, I would imagine would be the one who could actually revoke that permit, or unless with me as a ZA to revoke the permit based on the findings of the hearing officer from the code enforcement process.
Okay, well, what I will say is I am not comfortable with this until we have some of those very specific things that we can do. Because again, we're having, I mean, I have multiple code enforcement issues that I am trying to get through right now that aren't going anywhere and nothing is happening because we don't have answers like this.
I believe we're limited to what the state has authorized us to have in the code.
That's correct. If you look at line 37 of the bill from 2025, we are required to establish the ordinance with the procedures for review and approval of these residences, and it gives us all the criteria in this law that we have to include in our ordinance.
Again, I don't have a problem with that. My problem is what happens if these become bad actors. That's the question. Yeah, I have no problem with having, I mean, yes, the state says we have to put it in, that's great, but the state at the very bottom of that said that we can put in limit, you know, how we, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, just how we maintain them, so that there are very clear-cut ways to revoke a license if necessary.
Well, I think what they said though, Councilwoman Hurtak, is that we use current code enforcement, code requirements to enforce action.
Yes,
If they have repetitive court
But
enforcement
again, my
actions.
problem is that it's not working now. Why would it work then?
But I don't, but if you have a state statute, I don't know if they're gonna let you do above and beyond.
A question if I can. The license is not something that's issued by the city. The license is issued by the state.
The license is issued by the state.
So a
We would-
revocation, what would the revocation be of? To revoke what?
Local government approval of the location to have a certified recovery residence.
And what's the remedy for that, for the revocation, once they receive
It's
that?
in- it's-
Do you notify the state? I guess what you're asking is the procedural
Yeah.
mechanism for regulation monitoring it. Is that, so that, I guess that's the question.
well,
Just
Yeah,
a reminder,
Dana Crosby,
Council,
call you.
what came to mind, Council, is you know that you've had alcohol revocation hearings. And that is a process that we have to go through. Perhaps it would be, following something similar to that. I don't know.
And we could definitely, it would be within the scope of the title of this ordinance to flesh out that section F in order to provide additional guidance, or perhaps refer the reader to another section in the code that addresses the very issue you're talking about.
And so I will just simply say, this is why I like to have briefings ahead of time for this. No one was on my call for this when I did the rest of the briefing. Because anyway, so what I would recommend, I'm not going to vote for this until I have more specific guidelines in, because I'm fighting right now with some of the guidelines that aren't strong enough. So I don't know how you all feel, but I just have to vote no.
Okay. Councilman Vera, if you want to read this, would you read the substitute motion, please?
I have a
Oh, sure. You're right, sorry.
Oh,
Councilman Vera.
may I have a question?
I just
So,
didn't know if
you know, Councilwoman Hurtak has brought up some issues. Is there any way that we can allow more time on this for further review or modification, or is this something?
Well, we can make recommendations between first and second reading. We come back on June 4th for a second reading of the ordinance itself. In between, that time Dana and I can work, we can see if anybody else has implemented this throughout I mean, everybody should have implemented this by now.
It's on the book.
But,
I get it.
you know, see who else has implemented, what issues they've had, and how they handle the revocation. It is a Chapter 27 issue. Normally that goes through code enforcement, but we could utilize, as, you know, Mr. Shelby indicated, and have those come before council, similar to what we do for the alcohol revocations, and have it through a public hearing in front of city council.
Okay. Okay.
Though, does anybody in the public wish to speak to this item? Or do you want to talk
This is no
again?
reflection on either one of you two,
Might
it's
go
just that it's shocking that we have it now and there's no, code enforcement can't do anything they want to do. It's prohibited by law, so you can't go in the backyard, you can't go this, you can't do that. And we're not sure exactly how to handle this, I'll be honest with you.
Okay, anything else? Does anybody in the public wish to speak to this item? Hearing none, can I get a motion to close?
So move.
Motion to close, Councilman Vera, second from Councilman Maniscalco. Councilman Vera, is this,
I have,
all those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed?
I have a question.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So, so between the first and second reading, you all can come back with those, what we were talking about earlier, like, you know, recommendations, what that process would look like in the event that we have, you know, bad actors.
We never took the
closed
vote.
it.
I never took the vote.
Oh, or Economic Development Coordination, yes, ma'am.
I was starting
We
to
could, we can
think
come back between first and second reading, as Dana indicated. The title for the ordinance is broad enough that we could amend the ordinance itself and not delay the process. And then you as council would have the ability to vote yea or nay on June 4th. Or continue the case out even, you know, if that was not, if what we were recommending was insufficient.
Okay.
You good?
I guess. I mean, I share, you know, Councilmember Hurtek's, you know, because I have some, you know, issues with, you know, just different properties and things with code enforcement in our, you know, in some of the areas in my district, and working through that. So I don't want it to become, you know, what do we do if we do get, you know, bad actors? You know, what's the process? You know, if someone decides to open a recovery home next to a community, I mean, these are all things we have to consider. So that's why I was asking, would you all be able to come back and give us, you know, something? And I mean, we don't even know if we're the first people, you know, the first to do this. So no one else has, we don't know anything.
Dana Crosby, Collier City Attorney's Office. I do, the question was whether there have been issues with this ordinance. This ordinance was required to be on all cities and counties books January 1 of 2026. So it is out there as far as an ordinance that has been implemented or adopted by other cities and counties. We haven't heard of any issues with it, but it is out there. So it's an easy enough reach to reach out to other cities and counties and see what they're doing with regard to enforcement that's not the code enforcement model.
Okay.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
And then I have another question. Because of SB 180, are we going to be allowed, I feel like this is our only opportunity to put in those requirements, because for SB 180, anything that we would do after the fact would then be considered, you know, more restrictive.
It could
so
be.
This is our only chance
That's a good
to
point.
get in those requirements. So I would expect to see something very black and white, followable, actionable. So that's what I'm looking for between first and second reading.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, does anybody in the public wish to speak to this item?
No, it was closed already. You already closed it, right?
No, we didn't close it.
Oh, you didn't take a vote?
No, we did not close it. I tried to close it,
But
but
you failed.
we never finished the deal. So hearing no one, can I get a motion to close?
Yes, sir, motion to close.
Motion to close, Councilman Vera, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The public meeting is officially closed. Mr. Shelby, you wish to say something about that?
No,
the substitute?
I'd just like to ask Councilmember Vieira to be sure to, the substitute.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
I already
just- so the fir-
directed
Well, I
him to
just,
do that.
in other words, so the first word, substitute.
Yes, sir.
orders.
No,
Thank you.
well taken. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, I move a substitute ordinance presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance in the city of Tampa, Florida, relating to publicly initiated text amendments, making revisions to the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 27, zoning and land development, amending 27-43, definitions, amending 27-156, official schedule of district regulations, repealing Section 27-160, special street setbacks, amending Section 27-177, historic street, or strike that, historic district establishment, or established, amending 27-184, official schedule of permitted principal, accessory and special uses, required off-street parking ratios by use, parking space equivalences by transportation mode, amending 27-198, official schedule of permitted principal, accessory and special uses, required off-street parking ratios by use, parking space equivalencies by transportation mode, amending Section 27-199, official schedule of dimensional regulations, amending Section 211.8, schedule of permitted uses by district, amending Section 212.4, schedule of allowable, permitted, and prohibited uses by district, creating Section 27-282.31, certified recovery residences, amending Section 27-283.12, off-street parking space standards, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing an effective date.
I have a motion from Councilman Vieira, a second from Councilman Maniscalco, and it's so nice for you to sing that to us. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Clerk?
Okay, motion carried with Hurtek voting no and Carlson absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 4th, 2026 at 10:30 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Okay, we already had a motion to open the public hearings. The next public hearings are quasi-judicial. If you are here to provide testimony or speak to any of the items left on this agenda, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in by our clerk. Yes. Come here, oppose them. Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 4 is REZ 2604. This is request to rezone 3401 and 3407 West Kennedy Boulevard, 106 Glen Avenue, 3402 and 3406 West North A Street from RS 50 Commercial General and Planned Development to Planned Development for Medical Office and all CG uses. I'll turn it over now to Planning Commission staff.
Mr. Collins?
Good afternoon, or good evening. Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I was sworn in. Our first case is located in the Central Tampa Planning District. Specifically, it's in the Oakford Park neighborhood. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site outlined in purple. It's at the just at the northwest corner of West Kennedy Boulevard and North Glen Avenue. It abuts North A Street to the north. The subject site is recognized under 2 future land use designations. The portion along Kennedy Boulevard is recognized under the UMU 60 designation. And then the portion to the north that fronts North A Street is designated as residential 10. As you can see, the UMU 60 is predominantly found along Kennedy Boulevard, which is a transit emphasis corridor. And then just north of that, it transitions to the residential 10, which is noted by the tan color. Planning Commission staff reviewed the application and found it consistent with the development pattern in the area, which includes a mix of commercial uses along West Kennedy Boulevard and residential uses to the north. As shown in the aerial, Kennedy Boulevard is predominantly non-residential in character, and then to the north of that, there's mostly single-family detached homes with some scattered multifamily in the area. The site, again, is located along Kennedy Boulevard, which is a transit emphasis corridor. This is an area where the plan says it's suitable for intensification redevelopment. The request retains the existing building and provides rear parking with pedestrian connections consistent with the mixed-use centers and corridors. Those policies seek to place the parking at the rear of the building, so it's consistent with the mixed-use centers and corridor policies. The R10 portion of the site is used for parking and is buffered from adjacent residential uses with landscaping and fencing, maintaining compatibility with the surrounding single-family homes to the north along North A Street. The proposed intensity of 0.63 FAR is below the maximum allowed and consistent with the comprehensive plan. The use of the alley is supported by the plan for the parking area to the north. Overall, the request is consistent with the City of Tampa comprehensive plan and compatible with the surrounding development pattern in the area. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the City of Tampa comprehensive plan. And that concludes my presentation. Available for any questions.
Anybody have any questions for the Planning Commission? Hearing none. Next.
For the record again, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. We'll start with an aerial of the subject site. The subject property is comprised of 4 parcels. The southern portion of the property is located at the northwest corner of West Kennedy Boulevard and North Glen Avenue, whereas the northern portion of the property is located in the southwest corner, the southwest portion of the intersection of West North A Street and North Glen Avenue. The subject property is improved with 2 parcels along West Kennedy Boulevard. It includes a 2-story building on the west side of the property and a 1-story building on the east side. There is a 14-foot platted alleyway which bisects the property, and the northern portion of the property is comprised of a 1-story office building along North Glen Avenue, as well as 2 single-family detached dwelling units with frontage along West North A Street. The property, the subject property is surrounded by a mix of uses. We have single-family detached dwellings to the north, zoned RS50. Along the east of the property, we do have a utility use and a business professional office building, and we have a CG zoning and RS50 zoning. West of the subject property, we have single-family detached dwellings zoned RS50, as well as retail uses zoned CG. And immediately south of the property, on the other side of West Kennedy Boulevard, we have a mix of retail and business professional office uses. Through this plan development rezoning request, the applicant will be retaining the two buildings, the 2-story building and the 1-story building along West Kennedy Boulevard. However, they will be removing the 1-story office building and the 2 single-family residences on the northern portion of the property. They are proposing the construction of a surface parking lot comprised of 47 spaces. That parking lot will have 24-foot wide drive aisles and 2 egress points along that 14-foot platted alleyway. There's also a proposed dumpster location which has been reviewed by Solid Waste and provides ample space for servicing that particular site. And I should also note that there are no elevations proposed with this due to the demolition of the existing buildings, and the only new improvement to the site being a surface parking lot. There are a total of 5 waiver requests with this application. The first is to section 27284. This is to reduce the required use-to-use buffer from 15 feet with a 6-foot masonry wall to 15 feet with a 6-foot vinyl decorative fence. This would be along the western boundary of the surface parking parcel. The second waiver is to section 27284. This is to reduce the required 13-foot wide landscape parking islands from curb to front of curb from 13 feet to 8 feet. The third waiver is to section 27283. This is to reduce the drive aisle width from 24 feet to 20 feet for the existing building parcels. This would be for the southern portion of the site along West Kennedy, as well as the parking that exists in the rear of the building along the 14-foot alleyway. The fourth waiver is to section 27284. This is to remove one non-hazardous grand live oak tree, number 13, a 33-inch live oak rated C5 worth 15 mitigation trees. We do have 2 reasonable reconfiguration design alternatives, which are included in the staff report packet that we provided. I'm happy to show those if requested. And the 5th and last waiver request is to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 81 to 80. This would be a 1% reduction. We do have some photos of the site to provide. We'll start along West Kennedy Boulevard. This is the 2-story office building. Next to that is the 1-story retail building. Immediately behind both of those buildings along Glen Avenue, we have a 1-story office building. And next we have, on the northern half of the property, we have, this would be along North A Street. We have a single-family detached. We have an additional single-family detached. I want to show that alleyway which bisects the property. It's a well-maintained alley. Looking beyond the subject property, north of the subject site along North A Street, we have residential uses, again, along the north side of North A Street. Looking south of the subject site, we have Kennedy Boulevard, mix of business professional office as well as retail uses. Along North Glen, looking east, we have that utility use as well as business professional office uses. And then looking west, we have retail uses, parking lot area, as well as single-family detached dwellings along North A Street. And Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed this application. We do find the request inconsistent with the applicable City of Tampa land development regulations. Our inconsistent findings are from Development Coordination, Natural Resources, as well as Transportation. The finding from Natural Resources will be consistent once site plan revisions are made. And should it be the pleasure of City Council to approve this application, further modifications to the site plan will be required between first and second reading of the ordinance, as stated on the revision sheet included with the staff report. And I'm available for any questions.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I'm a little amazed that 2 houses and 1 businesses, and you only get 47 parking spaces. I'm having a hard time with that. But, so my question is, how can you have reasonable reconfiguration about trees?
Yeah, it relates with the grand tree. I can share that. There were 2 options that were provided. And this would be good. There's one example where they're showing preserved trees as well as a change in just the layout. That's option 1. It would show the removal of a hazardous tree. And then option 2 for reasonable reconfiguration, slightly different layout. Again, noting the hazardous tree to remove, and then a preserved live oak there on the east side of that parking lot.
And my question is, I don't understand why those don't work.
They do.
But
The means like mandated. They have less parking.
Oh, so that's what I'm expecting. I mean, so if it's gonna be answered by the applicant, I will wait. My question is, for staff is, they clearly can, what's the implication? Or what happens when they don't, or when they make space for the trees?
In this particular instance, we do have the waiver, which would remove the one non-hazardous grand tree.
Okay, so I'll just simply ask my question. Is the answer, is the reason they don't want to do this because it would reduce parking spaces?
Most likely, I
Okay,
would say
thank
that.
you.
And it would change the layout essentially on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Miranda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just the alley. I assume there's going to be much more traffic on the alley than there is now, right?
There'd be probably a little more traffic
Okay.
since they would have 47
Yeah.
spaces
And that
there.
alley, who maintains the alley, the city or they do?
Well, it's an open alley, so it's essentially the city, it's an open and used alleyway. So it's in relatively good condition. I walked it as part of the site visit there. The businesses there utilize it to park in the backside of that two-story building along
There's no
Kennedy.
parking on that addition on the back side now, correct?
There is parking. I do have a photo I can
Well,
show you. Let's see. So we can actually see that along the backside of that two-story building, there is covered parking there for that business professional office building. And then as you go down the alleyway, you're basically in the backyard of those single-family residences, which are to the west of the one-story building that's in the foreground.
Councilwoman Young?
Did I hear you, I just wanted to make sure I have my notes correct. So, you said the inconsistency was found in development coordination, natural resource and transportation, but there will be a consistent once changes are made, for natural resources, is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay.
We have that revision sheet. There's some items on there that they essentially have to make. Once they make that, then they would be consistent with the requests from natural resources.
Okay. And then also the other options that you gave to preserve the tree, you said would limit the amount of parking spaces?
It would change the configuration. The numbers that would be affected, I would have to confer with the applicant on that to see how the reasonable configurations would address the number of spaces. I'd have to confer with them to see how that would change that, but.
Okay.
Is Ricky here for the applicant? Okay, just making sure. Yeah, is Chris, I've got Chris. Is Chris, are you online for the applicant or you got this? Okay, let's go. Chris, if you're online, are you planning on speaking?
Only if necessary, sir.
Okay, well, why don't we swear you in just in case? Raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank
Now
you.
you can go back and enjoy the hearing unless we need you.
Okay.
Okay?
Good evening, Council. Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive. I'll provide a little bit more color on the reasonable recon process, and then I'll let Ricky kind of go into some of the details before I start the presentation. Those reasonable recon exhibits are required per code, and what they're supposed to do is arm the Natural Resources Department with enough data and information to find the removal consistent. So that's why we submit those. Like I said, I'll let Ricky talk to some of the other options, but it wasn't just a loss of parking spaces per se. There were a couple other nuanced factors involved with reconfiguring it. We were by no means married to this parking lot layout for any reason other than the fact that it just yielded the number of spaces that got us close enough to what was code required. I'll speak to that with the rest of this. I'm going to skip over this introduction. Chris gave a good location update. The applicant is the property owner of the two-story building, the law firm building. Also included is that smaller building to the east. He's a contract purchaser of that. There are about 13,500 square feet of commercial buildings on site. Both of those buildings that are located along Kennedy Boulevard will stay. There is a really, really small picture framing business that's located just north of the alley off of Glen that will be demolished with the single-family homes in the back. But the two main buildings on Kennedy will remain. And we will be adaptively reusing them. So this is photos of the front two buildings along Kennedy as they exist today. Again, we'll be using those in their current configuration. Why we're here is because we would like to retrofit those buildings for a medical office, so medical office users. In doing so, you all are pretty aware that medical office is one of the highest parking drivers in the land development code currently. And as such, we have some parking here located in the front along Kennedy that will stay, and the parking that's located to the rear of the building that will stay as well. But I'll go through the numbers in just a minute, but that we're still relatively short there. So we do have a set of waivers. Chris explained these in detail, so I won't go into these in too much further detail. In terms of the natural resources waivers, we are requesting a fence instead of a wall on the west side. That'll still be 6 feet, just like the wall would be, and we're still providing 15 feet, which is what is required per code, so the width is still there. We're requesting a reduction in this island width up here in the center there. We're still able to get a type 1 tree in there, so I just wanted to make that clear that the shade tree would still be there. We're gonna have some alternative planting measures around that to ensure that the roots are protected. And the grand removal, which we discussed and which Ricky will discuss on the reasonable reconfigurations. This is where the problem arises, is in terms of how many spaces that we need to park for medical. So based off of the square footage of the two front buildings that are staying along Kennedy, we need 81 parking spaces. And I know that seems astronomical, and it is, and I'm hopeful that in the future code it won't be that many spaces. But currently on site we have 32, so we're still 49 short. With those 47 spaces in the back, we're at 80. So we're getting close. We still have a 1% parking reduction. But given the fact that this is close to residential homes, and there is along North A, there are homes there. I mean, I think it's important that we can try to park as much as we can and avoid any kind of overflow that would go into the streets. The drive aisle width, these are both existing. We are requesting a waiver for these to reflect the existing conditions, but this is for that drive aisle along the front, which is 22 feet. That alley, as Chris mentioned, is 14, but you measure it from the edge of the stall to the opposite edge of pavement of the alley. So we do have 20 feet in width there. And to answer your question, Councilman Miranda, yes, we'll have people entering and exiting off of the alley for the rear lot to avoid placing any kind of traffic back there on North A. So that's all I have, but I'll have Ricky come up and explain reasonable recon a bit, and then I can answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you, Council. Ricky Pederica, Dark Moss, 308 East 7th Avenue. I have been sworn, and I will walk through reasonable recon a little bit. Once this is up.
Can we get the wolf?
Thank you. Reasonable recon does speak to vehicle use areas as opposed to buildings, which you're used to seeing. This is the tree in question. The tablet's not working. I'll just, sorry about that. This is the tree in question. What this option is showing is the drive aisle going around the tree into the landscape buffer, leaving the full TPZ preserved in place. This is the other hazardous grand tree that's going to be removed. This dashed area is the stormwater vaults being shifted westward into the drive aisle, and there's a 13 parking space reduction associated with this site plan adjustment. The second tree, this works, not working. Or the second site plan, reorients parking on the south, and now I'm writing, okay, great. Slides the vaults over to the west and puts a driveway here onto Glen Ave. This results in only 4 parking spaces, but it does not meet technical standards for driveway separation. for this, I forget which road it is, on the north side. So one option is greater parking space reduction and a small reduction in utility of the stormwater vaults. The second option is less of a reduction, but technical standard inconsistency with driveway separation.
Councilwoman Hurtado.
So I have a question about that. Why do you have to have two entrances and exits?
One second. That may be better
Okay.
answered by civil. than-
Okay.
Chris Weddle, Aurora Civil Engineering, 610 East Morgan Street, Brandon. We really dislike dead-end parking rows. It causes a lot of trouble with folks, especially at a medical office, backing out from a dead-end parking row.
Okay, thank you.
And there's no exit onto, is it North A?
Correct.
And there's no reasonable configuration for a North A exit?
We didn't provide that option. At first glance, gonna do a live reasonable recon here. If that were here, we would still have, this would be a dead-end aisle, and there would still be a roughly 13-space parking reduction in this option. But it would likely meet this technical standard of driveway separation.
What is the, I mean, I know you're a tree guy, not a transportation guy, but do you know what the technical standard is from the distance?
I
Chris,
think
Chris,
this is
do you know
100
that?
feet.
Anybody know what the technical standard is? Oh, there you are. I didn't see you hiding back there. Oh, you were hiding behind the desk.
Jonathan Scott, Mobility. It's 40 feet.
Oh,
But you have a lot of stuff going on there too. There's like ditches and, sidewalks but I think that, looking at their site plan, I agreed with the layout that they proposed. But
So
that,
we're not just missing it by a little, we're missing it by a lot. Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, applicant, anything further?
That's all I have.
Yeah, I would just add that while, yes, we are technically removing the tree to build a surface parking lot, we're building the surface parking lot to support an adaptive reuse for the two buildings on the front. So it is all connected. It's not just a rogue parking lot available for commercial uses. This is to effect an adaptive reuse, which, as I mentioned, hopefully in the future code does get some kind of relief on providing required parking, but that's not in there yet. So that's all I have.
Okay. Great. That concludes your presentation.
Yes.
Does anybody in the public wish to speak to this item? Okay, come forward, please. And if anybody else, if you would line up on the wall to your right, my left, one at a time. And since we see new faces here, you're not familiar, when you come to the podium, you start with your name, and then you'll have 3 minutes. So you come to the podium, there's an embedded microphone. Sure. Start with your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. Hi, my name is Allie Kern, and I live in the two-story building that is going to be beside the parking lot. So it's a single-family home. I'm a mother. I have 2 kids. It's a residential community. I keep hearing the word say, like, it's consistent with what's going on, that there's gonna be commercial property. It's not. I have my neighbors here. We have kids in the middle of the street riding their scooters on the sidewalk all the time. My main concern is that there's going to be a parking lot with 81 spaces in a medical building where there are 2 single-family homes where our kids play at. So my main issue is for safety for my children, not being able to play in a residential community that we bought into a couple years ago. So, I mean, just in the city of Tampa, those little pockets of neighborhoods are so rare. That's one of the reasons we purchased there. Also, our alley in the back. We have a yard and a pool and a family back there. That just screams scary for me, that there's just gonna be now 81 cars being able to come in and out at any given time. Not to mention my home value depreciation with a parking lot next to me. That's just common sense. Anyone that it's gonna buy a neighborhood is not going to want to buy my home with a parking lot next to it. It's also the utility building that they mentioned before. That's currently in process. I saw online David Weekley is buying those, and they're gonna have that utility split into hopefully 3 single-family homes. So again, it's a community. There are no additional office buildings right there. Yes, on Kennedy there are, but not on West North A. We already have a speeding issue with so many cars just racing by trying to cut through from Kennedy to Himes that, again, I'm concerned that it's just an issue for our children. That concludes my speech.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Start with your name.
Good evening. Shona Almeida. I live 2 doors down from the property in question. And I'm here because I read the record, and there were a couple things that were represented in the record by the city staff that I just didn't feel supported approving this petition. So there were, the applicant uses medical office throughout the materials, but what's being voted on is a permanent rezoning of this space to any commercial use, and that concerns me, being that it is in fact a residential area. So this could authorize in the future restaurants, bars, vehicle service facilities, and that's not really what this community is about. This is truly a residential community on North A. Tampa Code requires the council to find that this rezoning is completely compatible with the homes immediately adjacent, and an 81-spot parking facility really would not be consistent with that. With single-family residences on 3 sides of this site, this finding really just cannot be made. 9 days ago, on May 3rd, the city's Natural Resources Department reviewed the current site plan and found it still non-compliant. This has not issued a single finding of consistency in its application through any review cycle. 2 weeks ago, on April 30th, Transportation as well found that the parking lot driving lane still 20 feet wide, whereas the city code requires 24. This was first flagged in November of 25 and has not yet been addressed. On February 2nd, Urban Design issued a 7-page finding of noncompliance with the Kennedy Boulevard design standards, and on April 13th, 1 paragraph reversed that entire finding, citing a 15% of land value threshold, but I could not find any reference to that 15% land value threshold in any code, certainly in section 27-243. So if someone can help me with that, that'd be very helpful. On March 19th, the applicant submitted 2 redesigned alternatives to the protected oak tree that was discussed earlier. And I want to read what was written by the applicant's own licensed engineer in a document filed with the city. So this non-residential parking area access location violates 27-212.5 by placing the access driveway within 100 feet of an intersection. So, this is the applicant's own engineer stating that there's a lot of code violations taking place here, particularly as it relates to that oak tree and the driveway. I'm asking City Council to deny this application, and if you're not prepared to deny, then at least a continuance until some of these violations can be more properly addressed, and with natural resources, with transportation findings, etc. That's my time. Thank you.
You have 30 more seconds.
That's all.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. Thank you so much. And just so if the yellow light goes off, you still have 30 seconds. So next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Kelly Pierce, resident at 3410 West North A. I sit in between Ali Kern and Shona Almeida. Many of the points that have been raised by my neighbors, I won't repeat for the sake of the council. I will say I submitted a letter of objection earlier this week. Hopefully you've received it. Furthering the point that Ali made about the utility space that is being purchased by David Weekley, I have here as a part of their application. Hopefully you can see this. This is the utility building that's under consideration. You can see that where they have requested for this to be subdivided into 3 parcels. That's already been approved with the intent of building more residences in the area. I agree with Ali that that this is inconsistent with code. Furthermore, to Councilmember Miranda's point about the alleyway, we've already had cars crashing into our fences and causing damage, and so increasing the amount of traffic that could be navigating that alleyway as an already narrow alleyway is not going to be safe for the residences in the area. As such, I respectfully request that the council find the petition to be not approved.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else in the public wish to speak to this item? Hearing none. Applicant, rebuttal?
Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive for the record. If council would be gracious enough to grant us a continuance, we'll talk. This is the first I've heard from anyone. So I'm very shocked because we sent out public notice, and I did check the record this week and didn't see any letters in optics or in on base. So yeah, I am unprepared, and I am happy to take their information and talk to them. But yeah, we'd like to get to a place where we think that they're comfortable with this.
First, I'd like to hear a motion from council to waive the rules on continuation after
So
presentation has
moved.
been started. We have a motion from Councilman Vera, second from Councilwoman Young. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilman Vera?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had kind of gleaned that just from the discussions and everything like that, and I'll just be frank, as an attorney, I appreciate your transparency in saying I'm surprised by this, because when you do that, you kind of take a chance with us, with anybody really. So I just want to say I appreciate that. So if I may, I do move to continue this item so that the council can, council with an S, can better deal with the public and come back and.
I need a date.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, go ahead.
Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. We do have openings on July 23rd, 2026.
Okay,
At
that's
5:01
amenable.
PM?
Yes,
Okay.
that's my motion. And may I
I
have a
have
second?
a motion from Councilman Viera to continue item number 4 to July 23rd, 2026 at 5:01 PM at 315 East Trinity Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida 33602. We have a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Hurtak.
I had something and I completely forgot it. Oh, well.
Sorry. You okay if I take the vote?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All those in favor for the continuation, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. We'll see you on July 23rd, 2026.
That's what it was. It didn't have to do with the vote, but I am concerned that this did not make it into the record by this morning. Because Ms. Shaler, if you want to, so you said you checked the.
I didn't check today. I
Okay.
checked this week at some
Okay.
point, maybe
Okay.
Tuesday, so it could have been uploaded today.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because.
Sure.
Because we did get letters this week, but it probably was Tuesday, Wednesday. So I just wanted to make sure that those did make it into the record.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And thank you for the community for turning out. Thank you, Ricky. LaShawn?
Yes, thank
I
you, Chairman.
recognize you.
Thank you, Chairman. Council LaShawn, Doc Development Coordination. I would like to introduce a staff member, our latest member to join our team. This is Bria Dixon. Bria is in Urban Planner 2. She will process rezonings and special use 2 applications, so you'll see her before you. And tonight is her debut. She graduated from Xavier University with her bachelor's degree. She completed her master's in urban studies with the University of New Orleans. So I just want to introduce her before she starts her case in presenting.
Welcome to Tampa City Council. So this is your night of hazing. So I'm assuming you're going to present item number 5.
I am.
Well, actually, we're gonna go planning commission first. Who are we doing first?
Do you want to do the intro?
Oh,
Bria Dixon, Development Coordination, Agenda Number 5, REZ 2611, request to rezone 1500 West LaSalle Street from RS 50 Residential Single Family to RM 18 Residential Multiple Family. I will now turn it over to Planning Commission staff.
thank you, Bray. Good job so far.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our next case tonight is located in the Central Tampa Planning District, specifically West Tampa Urban Village and the West Riverfront neighborhood. The subject site is designated Residential 20. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. It is located at the southwest corner of West LaSalle Street and North Oregon Avenue. As you can see, the surrounding development patterns predominantly single-family residential. It is 1 block to the east of North Rome Avenue, which has some more intensive commercial uses on it. Again, the subject site's recognized under the Residential 20 designation. That surrounds the subject site on all sides. 1 block to the west, we have the CMU 35 future land use designation. And this site is just south of the Interstate 275. Planning Commission staff reviewed the application and found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed RM18 district can be considered within the residential 20 future land use designation. The surrounding area includes residential uses along West LaSalle Street with light industrial and mixed uses located 1 block west along Rome Avenue. The proposed RM18 zoning district would allow infill residential development in an area planned for 20 dwelling units per acre. The site is located within the West Tampa Urban Village, where the comprehensive plan encourages infill housing and increased residential opportunities in proximity to transit and services. The request supports the comprehensive plan's housing policies, while also supporting development that is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, the surrounding residential neighborhood. Overall, the proposed rezoning would allow for development consistent with the surrounding area and the long-term land use pattern envisioned under the residential 20 designation. During the site plan review process, the applicant should address all applicable comprehensive plan policies, specifically any future development, whether for multifamily or single-family attached residential, should orient front unit entrances towards a neighborhood sidewalk or street to address land use policy 9.2.6. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff found the request consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Does council have any questions? Planning Commission. Okay. Brea? Am I saying your name right, Brea?
Yes.
Very good.
Bria Dixon, Development Coordination. We'll start with an area view of the subject site and the surrounding area. The residential, the property is outlined here in red. It is south of 275, and it is also south of West LaSalle, and is at the corner of Oregon and West LaSalle here. You would see that in 2024, there are 2 properties, RM18 to the immediate south. Both of those were rezoned, and they are currently vacant and undeveloped. They were rezoned from RS50 to the RM18 multiple family zoning designation. And just as Danny said, from Planning Commission, west of the subject site here along North Rome Avenue, it transitions from RS50 to that IG industrial general. And moving on, we have the survey. Here you can see again outlined in red are the boundaries of the subject site. And here is North Oregon Avenue as well as West LaSalle Street. I also have photos of the subject area. Here we have the current subject site. This is the residence to the north, residence to the east. Looking east down West LaSalle Street, south of the subject area, west of the subject area, looking west down West LaSalle Street, and this is a residential, multiple family residence at the northwest area of the property. The subject site is approximately 0.13 acres, and the maximum number of units allowed by the RM18 zoning would be 2 dwelling units. Given that the surrounding area and the uses consist of single-family detached, single-family semi-detached, and multiple family units, the requested RM18 zoning designation is consistent with the development pattern of the neighborhood. The property is within the West Tampa overlay, and development must comply with overlay standards at the time of permitting. Development coordination and compliance staff review the application and find the request to be consistent with the City of Tampa land development regulations. I am available for questions.
Thank you very much. Great job. Does council have any questions? Hearing none. Applicant? Is there an applicant present, or are we deferring to Aaron online? Aaron?
Councilman and women, Aaron is online, currently at the Tampa International Airport.
Aaron, we need to get
No,
you
they're
sworn.
wrong.
Hold on. We need to get your camera on our screens, and we need to get you sworn in. There we go. I can see you. If you raise your right hand, be sworn in by our clerk, please.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Go ahead.
Yeah, subject to any questions, councilmen and women. Sorry I'm not present tonight. I got another pressing meeting. I'm actually sitting at the Tampa airport, and just with a conflict between flights and attending, I'm just trying to multitask.
Aaron, would you
Pending
state
any
your name
question.
for the record? Aaron, would you state your name for the record, please?
Aaron Scott Trometer.
Okay, very good. Does council have any questions for Aaron? Hearing none? Okay, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? Yes, ma'am? Come forward. When you get to the podium, start with your name. You'll have 3 minutes. If you see the yellow light goes off, you still have 30 seconds.
Okay, good
Start with your name,
afternoon. My name is Delphine Jones, and I hope City Council noted all those cars that were along the street. That's one of the big issues I have, because this particular dwelling is gonna be on the corner. And I already have problems coming out of my driveway. I can't see. We have students that stay in the house. So they're parking in the driveway, but they're also parking on the street. Now, I want to show a picture. This is my first time doing this.
Yes, you're doing perfect. That's exactly what you
Of
need
my
to do.
daughter, the next street over, which is Arch. She was pushed into her house, and that's how much density and traffic we have in that area. The last time I came, I shared this with you also. And it's just, to me, it's just not feasible. We're overpopulated and there's too much density. Everybody says consistent. Consistent for who? It's not consistent for the people who stay in the neighborhood. And as you know, I'm a volunteer. Been volunteer for 35 years or plus as neighborhood coordinator, whatever. But enough is enough. Somebody's gonna have to come out and look at my neighborhood and see what's going on in my neighborhood now. Bayshore Beautiful, somebody was here about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they complained about keeping low density. I understand that we have a different kind of density going on in West Tampa, which is fine, I'm all for it, but it's gotta be consistent. Somebody's gotta level it off somewhere. It's getting ridiculous. And my daughter's at the point now where, in nursing, we call it activities of daily living. She's not functioning at that level. Because of this accident, the street behind, where he's gonna propose to put this duplex or whatever. And the space, I think, is 57 by 100. I mean, so that's maybe 2 families. They might have children, so you're talking about 8 more cars on that corner? Seriously, really? So I'm basically against it, and I'm gonna be against it when it comes to safety of the neighborhood and the things I'm seeing my daughter go through.
Okay, thank you very much. Is anybody else in the public wishes to speak to this item? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council. James Lascara. I own 5 properties within 3 blocks. I live 3 blocks away. I appreciate Ms. Jones' longtime legacy of living in the neighborhood. I love our neighborhood. I'm looking forward to the Riverwalk extension down Rome. I'm looking forward to walking up to Rome Yards. Walkability is one of my favorite parts of the neighborhood. I would welcome the opportunity to welcome 2 new families to this neighborhood. And I don't know the applicant at all, but based on the precedent, we have a lot of mix of uses in our neighborhood. We have single family, we have multi-unit. There's 2 churches in the middle of our neighborhood. I would support this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else in the public wish to speak to this item? Hearing none. Applicant, would you like to have a rebuttal?
I just want to give thanks for the opportunity to attend. I've owned the property since 2015. I've been stationed in and out of Tampa since 1998. So Tampa's home for me, and I would like to continue to improve Tampa any way that we can. Just as a homeowner and a layman, I again appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to close? Oh, we have a motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Vieira. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilwoman Young.
Before reading, I also, Ms. Jones, I think that you made some really valid points, and I want to have a separate conversation just about the transportation.
No, remember it's closed.
Oh.
So we can't introduce it
Oh,
anymore.
sorry.
And you can't testify on it.
Gotcha. Anyway. Okay, so we're on number 5.
Item number 5.
Okay. All right, file number REZ-26-11, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 1500 West LaSalle Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS50 residential single family to RM18 residential multifamily, providing an effective date.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilwoman Young. I have a second, Councilman Vieira. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, motion carried unanimously with Carlson absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 4th, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you for your service, Aaron. Okay, item number 6.
Bria Dixon, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 6 is REZ 2616, request to rezone 3206 North Tampa Street from RS 50 Residential Single Family to PD Plan Development, Residential Single Family Attached. I will now turn over to Planning Commission staff.
Mr. Collins?
Danny Collins, with your Planning Commission staff, I was sworn in. Not sure if I can get this to focus. Our next case is located within the Central Tampa Planning District, specifically the Tampa Heights Urban Village. The subject site is within the coastal planning area, specifically a VAC Zone E. The subject site is designated as residential 20.
What do you,
There we go.
do you have a map up there? There we go.
Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding property. So you can see the subject site is on the west side of Tampa Street, just north of East Plymouth Street. There are some residential homes located along Plymouth Street, as well as some non-residential uses located one block to the east on Florida Avenue. Subject site is recognized under the residential 20 future land use designation. So this allows for the consideration of multifamily, single-family, attached and detached uses. That is the predominant land use pattern along this portion of North Tampa Street. Directly to the west of the subject site, we have the residential 10, which is noted by this tan orangish color. Planning Commission staff reviewed the application and overall found it compatible with the surrounding development pattern, which is predominantly single-family homes with some nearby light commercial uses along Florida Avenue. The site is within the Tampa Heights Urban Village, where the comprehensive plan encourages infill housing and increased residential density near transit and services. The proposed density is consistent with the density anticipated under the residential 20 designation. Overall, staff found the PD meets the intent of the land use policy 9.2.6, which provides design policy or design guidance for single-family attached uses. The front door of Unit 3 is oriented towards North Tampa Street. Units 1 and 2 face the alleyway, and a pedestrian connection is provided to North Tampa Street. So again, this is meeting the policy of connecting the unit entrances to the street. While the pedestrian connection generally aligns with the intent of the policy, the design raises pedestrian safety concerns, as there is a 0-foot setback from the garage to the sidewalk. This design creates a potential direct conflict between vehicles backing out of garages and pedestrians using the sidewalk, which is inconsistent with policy direction or mobility policy 1.5.5, which seeks to limit vehicular and pedestrian conflicts. However, the comprehensive plan does not establish minimum distance or setback requirements between garages and a pedestrian pathway. Additionally, the proposed PD will utilize the alley for vehicular access, which is supported by the plan. In summary, although staff has concerns regarding the potential conflict between pedestrian vehicles along the internal pedestrian connection, the request addresses many of the policies in the plan related to neighborhood compatibility, housing, and infill development. Overall, the request is consistent with the long-range development pattern encouraged under the residential 20 designation. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Does council have any questions? Hearing none. Next.
Bria Dixon, Development Coordination. Again, we have an area view of the subject property. The subject property is outlined here in red. The subject site is located south of West 26th Street, west of North Tampa Street, and north of West Plymouth Street. The applicant requested and was granted a similar rezoning request for planned development at the two northern sites, and the planned development to the east was completed in the 80s. The site is presently vacant and undeveloped. Here is the site plan submitted by the applicant. The applicant proposes a single structure comprised of three residential units. The front door orientation of one unit will front North Tampa Street, and the remaining two doors will front an interior side. Each unit proposes a 2-car garage, and 1 visitor parking space is proposed. Vehicle access to the site is proposed from the 10-foot platted alley, and sidewalks are proposed along North Tampa to connect to the existing sidewalks and pedestrian connections. The proposed maximum height is 40 feet. The property is located in the Tampa Heights Overlay District. The subject parcel has a residential 20R20 future land use designation. Given the site is comprised of 7,420 square feet, or approximately 0.017 acres, the development proposed is within the allowable floor area ratio in the R20 future land use designation. Here are the proposed elevations. We have east and west shown here, as well as the north and the south. I also have photos of the subject property. Here is the subject property, which is currently vacant. You can also see that this portion right here is the alleyway, and it stops right here at this fence. This is the north of the subject property, which is also where that PD has been for the same request. This is looking east down to West Plymouth Street. This is that planned development rezoning that was from 1985. This is south of the subject property. This is west of the subject property. And this is looking west down 22nd Avenue. The applicant is requesting one waiver from section 27282.9C1. Request to permit ground floor entrances, front doors to face a side lot line or corner lot lines. Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the petition and found the request consistent with the applicable City of Tampa land development regulations. If City Council approves the application and waiver requested, modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading. I have an updated revision sheet to add to the record.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hurtak.
I just want to correct the record. This is not 22nd Avenue and it's not west. You're looking north on Tampa Street there.
Sorry, correct.
No problem. And then your other one had it looking east, but it's actually south on Tampa. So, okay. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Okay, with the revised revision sheet. Okay. Any other questions by council? Applicant. Okay, applicant. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council. James LaSalle. I'm the applicant for the property at 3206 North Tampa Street. Do we want to start with the question? I'm happy to take it at the beginning.
I mean, I'm just trying to envision, if you have a site plan, do you have a site plan with you?
Yes, ma'am.
If you could drop it on the Wolf. I'm trying to envision, because I cannot remember exactly how the exit for the other project we just approved, does that also use the alley?
No. So the drive aisle, so this is oriented properly, so north-south. Can you see it
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the drive aisle for that property comes and ends before the alley, so it does not tie in.
Okay. But could it?
It could. The most candid way I can say this is working with FDOT on this project has been
Okay.
the most
No,
challenging thing
that's
of
all
my,
you need to
my
say.
development career.
That is all you need to say.
Okay.
Okay. And then my other question was the agreement to work with the neighborhood association to add to the porch and the character of the front on Tampa Street.
Yes, ma'am, I'll address that.
Okay, excellent.
Well, while we're asking questions real quick, that alley that we saw the fence and the trees, has that been abandoned or is that an active alley they just constructed fences across?
So formally, in the eyes of the city of Tampa, it is not vacated. The city of Tampa owns it as a right-of-way. Nobody uses it. So nobody uses it on this side of the block, which is the east side of the block. On the west side of the block, I believe 2 houses use it for vehicle parking.
Okay, so it's salvageable. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, sir, go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, City Council. My name is James LaSalle, and I'm the applicant for the property at 3206 North Tampa Street. We're requesting rezoning from RS50 to planned development for single-family attached use. We were encouraged by staff's finding of consistency. We are also pleased that we were able to find a way to incorporate alley use into our design, which was a comment from several City Council members from our rezoning hearing for the site directly north of this. This will control traffic in the safest way possible along North Tampa Street for entering and exiting the units of this proposed development. We have a history of thoughtful design for our projects. This will be our 5th project in the Tampa Heights area. Our goal is always that what we build matches the community and is respectful to the neighborhood and the heritage that exists there. We've been very engaged with the neighborhood, and we have received resoundingly positive feedback from the surrounding community, including several letters of support from neighbors. I also have a letter of formal support from the Tampa Heights Civic Association, which I noticed was already added to the record. We always want to ensure we are creating compatible housing with the surrounding area, so we were pleased to receive their letter of support. They mentioned a few requests for some changes to the elevations, which we discussed and are happy to make and have agreed to. We submitted these to staff this week, and these are reflected on the revised revision sheet. That's my understanding, and these will be completed prior to second reading. I've brought a map showing the surrounding area. With the subject property marked in black, and the supporting neighbors' properties marked in green, one of which it is myself. In addition, I have included a conceptual rendering of the proposed project. I'd like to show that to you now. So that would be the view looking from the north towards the south. Tampa Heights is in need of missing middle to increase density. What does this accomplish? Addresses housing shortages and affordability issues, reduces urban sprawl, and positions updated available units near key transportation corridors like North Tampa Street for bus and the new bike route along Ola within just a couple blocks. This request supports thoughtful growth near the urban core and helps address the increasing demand for housing as Tampa continues to grow. Providing a range of housing options allows us to meet the needs of a diverse population while remaining respectful of the existing community. For these reasons, I respectfully ask for approval of REZ 2616. This project reflects responsible development in a way that we have ensured is in alignment with the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Council have any questions? I have one. Is that fence yours?
Which fence, sir?
The one that blocks the alley?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not our property.
Okay, very good. No questions? Okay, anybody in the public wish to speak to this item? We have a motion to close, Councilman Miranda. We have a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilwoman Hurtak.
File number REZ 2616, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3206 North Tampa Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RS50 residential single family to PD plan development residential single family attached, providing an effective date and including the revised site plan revisions
From
sheet.
5/14/2026.
Yes, from 5/14/2026.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak. I have a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 4th, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you, clerk. Next.
For the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 7 is REZ 2637. This is a request to rezone 1313 West Nassau Street from RS50 to planned development for residential single-family semi-detached uses. I'll turn it now over to Planning Commission staff.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I was sworn in. Our next case is within the Central Tampa Planning District, specifically West Tampa Urban Village and the West Riverfront neighborhood. Subject site is in the coastal planning area. specifically EVAC Zone C. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You can see the surrounding development patterns predominantly single family. There are some non-residential uses a couple blocks south along West Cypress Street. The subject site and the surrounding properties are recognized under the residential 20 future land use designation. That's the predominant land use designation in the area. Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it compatible with the overall development pattern in the area, which again is mostly single-family homes and some scattered two-family residential units. The uses and density can be considered under the R20 designation. The site is located again within the West Tampa urban village, where the comprehensive plan encourages infill housing and walkable transit supportive development patterns. The design supports those policies by orienting units towards a proposed sidewalk and using the alley for vehicular access. The request also supports the city's broader housing and infill goals by adding residential units on an underutilized parcel in an area close to transit. Additionally, it supports policies that direct the greatest share of growth to the urban villages. Overall, staff finds the request fits well within the existing neighborhood context and is consistent with the development pattern anticipated under the R20 designation. Based on that, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa comprehensive plan. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Chris?
Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. We'll start with an aerial. The subject site is outlined in red. It is improved with a single-family detached dwelling unit on the north side of West Nassau Street. The subject block is located east of North Oregon Avenue and west of North Willow Avenue. Surrounding zoning is RS 50. Surrounding uses include single-family detached dwellings to the north, south, east, and west. There's also a place of religious assembly on the immediately south of the subject site along West Nassau Street. I also want to note that there are some planned development rezonings that have been approved in recent years. Just to the north of the subject site on the south side of West Arch Street. Looking on the east side of that block face, we have a PD site that was approved for single-family detached dwelling units. And then on the west side of that block face, we have side-by-side PD-approved properties. These sites were approved for single-family semi-detached dwelling units. I also want to orient council to the general area a little further north. Agenda item number 5, which was 1500 West LaSalle Street. It is located where my pen is showing on the aerial, just to give you some idea of just the general area and the activity that we're seeing here in terms of rezoning requests. The site is also located in the West Tampa overlay. It has been reviewed for compliance with the West Tampa overlay district design standards. Moving on here to the proposed site plan from the applicant. The proposed site plan shows a single structure. It is 2 stories, and each of the structure contains 2 dwelling units. Each unit has front doors oriented to West Nassau Street. There is a covered entryway over both of those front doors. Additionally, the site plan shows a 4-foot wide pedestrian walkway from those covered entryways out to a proposed 5-foot sidewalk, which would run east to west along West Nassau Street. Additionally, the structure has a 2-car garage for each unit, and the site provides rear vehicular entry off of a 14-foot wide platted alleyway. Given the size of the site, a maximum of 1 unit is allowed by right. The developer has entered into a bonus agreement to allow for 1 additional unit, and that associated bonus agreement is presented concurrently with this application. We do have some elevations to show. Max height presented by the applicant is 31 feet 9 inches. We have a south elevation, an east elevation, a west elevation, and a north elevation. You can see the two-car garage on the back side of that elevation. The photos, we have the subject site with the existing detached dwelling. North of it along Arch Street, similar style home. Immediately south across Nassau, we have the open field, which is part of a place of religious assembly. This is the main building for that place of religious assembly. Immediately east of the subject site and west of the subject site. We have no waivers requested with this rezoning application. Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed this application. We find it consistent with the land development regulations, and should it be the pleasure of City Council to approve this application, further modifications will need to be made between first and second reading of the ordinance, as stated on the revision sheet included with the staff report, and I'm available for any questions.
Does council have any questions? Hearing none. Applicant?
Good evening, City Council. James LaScara again. I'll say that's the first time I've had my own house pictured in one of the staff photos that was taken for the site. So I live at 1313 Grace, and this is a rezoning for 1313 Nassau for transitioning from RS50 to planned development for single-family semi-detached. We're encouraged by the finding of consistency, and we're requesting no waivers. I do live a street over on Grace Street. So this project is in my very backyard and is very personal to me. I'm going on my 4th year of living here. I'm an advocate for supporting my own neighborhood and seeing it improve from within and investing back into the community. As I mentioned in the previous hearing, or in the previous remarks for the project on LaSalle, I really enjoy the walkability of the neighborhood, and one of the things I specifically like is how it is located close to transit, parks like Julian B. Lane near downtown, and other community amenities. I also appreciate the remarkable people I've been able to meet in the neighborhood over the past few years of living here. Community support for the proposal has also been strong. I noticed 6 letters of support from nearby residents in the community, and I heard no opposition during our outreach. So just to orient a little bit here, as I mentioned during my previous remarks on the LaSalle, it's kind of hard to see the colors. I realize black is the subject site, green are neighbors who are in support, and gray are actually projects that we are either have done or are doing. And so that would be 2 here on Grace, 2 here on Arch, 1 here on Arch, and then the 2 here on LaSalle. So we have quite the experience in the neighborhood of doing projects and doing them thoughtfully. Here's a conceptual rendering. This project helps address the continued demand for housing near Tampa's urban core. As the city continues to grow, providing a range of housing options within established neighborhoods is an important part of supporting that growth responsibly. This is how we build the missing middle and how we do it together. For these reasons, I respectfully request approval of REZ 2637. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Does council have any questions? Hearing none. Anybody in the public wish to speak to this item? A motion to close, Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1313 West Nassau Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS50, residential single family, to PD plan development, residential single family, semi-detached, providing an effective date.
Is there a revision sheet for this one, please?
And with the revision sheet between first and
I have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 4th, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Ocho.
Alrighty. Bria Dixon, Development Coordination, Agenda Item 10 is sorry, picked the wrong one. 1 second.
8. I'm always picking the wrong one.
We like your wanting to get through faster though. Do you appreciate
That's
that?
true. That is fact. That is a fact. Less pictures, faster talk.
Brea Dixon Development Coordination, agenda item number 8 is REZ 2652, request to rezone 5200 South Manhattan Avenue from Planned Development Residential Single Family Attached, approved in 2025 under REZ 2508, to Planned Development Residential Single Family Attached. I will now turn over to Planning Commission staff.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our next case tonight is located in the South Tampa Planning District, specifically the Gandy Sunbay South neighborhood. The site is within Evacuation Zone A, and it's within the coastal hazard area. This area is pretty interesting. This is an aerial map of the subject site. It is located at the northeast corner of South Manhattan Avenue and West Pearl Avenue. It is an interesting area. There are more intensive uses, generally south of Manhattan, or I'm sorry, east of South Manhattan Avenue, and then you have some single-family detached homes to the west. And this is kind of noted or reflected on the adopted future land use map. So as you can see, the subject site in the area generally east of South Manhattan Avenue is recognized under the Community Commercial 35 designation. So that allows consideration residential uses all the way up to commercial intensive uses, and then directly to the west of Manhattan, we have the residential 10 designation. So there is that kind of transition from the east to the west on Manhattan Avenue. This site was previously approved for 54 single-family attached units under rezoning 2508 last year. As acknowledged in the Planning Commission's report at the time, the proposed density and uses were consistent with the underlying Community Commercial 35 designation. The current request includes minor modifications to clarify setback requirements as they apply to architectural features and overhangs. The Planning Commission staff finds the request compatible with surrounding area given existing multifamily development and other residential uses in the area. Neighborhood Policy 1.1.2 emphasizes the importance of protecting and enhancing single-family neighborhoods by ensuring sensitive transitions between neighborhoods and adjoining areas. The PD provides a transition from the single-family detached that's located to the west of South Manhattan Avenue to the more intensive non-residential uses to the east, which is consistent with policies related to providing transitions between lower and higher and more intensive uses. Additionally, the request will provide additional housing in proximity to transit and commercial services. Based on the above considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Councilman Maniscalco.
Did we not see this before? So what's the difference? What happened? Okay.
Yeah, I'll let the applicant answer.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, next.
Brea Dixon, Development Coordination staff. Here we have an area view of the subject site with the subject parcel outlined here in red. The parcel is at the northeast corner of West Pearl Avenue and Manhattan. Here's the site plan provided by the applicant. The applicant proposes 10 three-story residential structures containing a total of 54 residential units. This is the same request that was previously reviewed and approved under REZ 2508. The applicant is returning to rezone the property to formalize the inclusion of balconies, overhangs, and other projections that were previously shown on the site plan elevations but not written into the site data table. The unit count and height will remain the same. Front door orientations for buildings 6 and 7 will remain on West Pearl Avenue. Buildings 1 and 2 will keep orientation towards South Manhattan Avenue, and the remaining structures will have interior orientations. Sidewalks are also proposed along South Manhattan Avenue as well as West Pearl to connect existing sidewalks and residential connections. The proposed maximum height is 40 feet. Here are elevations for a 5-unit building. So here's the west, east, south, and north. And for buildings that have 6 units, these are the elevations: west, east, south, and north. Also have pictures to accompany the photos. Also have pictures to accompany the subject area. This way. So this here is the subject property starting on West Pearl Street. Being that it's a corner site, it also has a view from South Manhattan Avenue. This is immediately north of the subject parcel, east of the subject property, south of the subject property, west of the subject property, and this is also west of the subject property. There are no requested waivers for this proposal. Development review and compliance staff has reviewed the petition and found the request consistent with applicable City of Tampa land development regulations. Should it be the pleasure of City Council to approve the application, further modifications to the site plan must be completed by the applicant between first and second reading of ordinance as stated on the revision sheet. I'm available for any questions.
Council have any questions? Hearing none. Applicant? And before you start, we just understand this is the exact same application. You're just, it was, in the narrative was omitted last, that what was shown on the diagram, right? No? Okay, more. Okay.
Good evening, Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson, and I have with me Mac McCraw from Mattamy. Yes, this is the first time in my career I've rezoned something to ask you for the exact same thing I asked you for last time I was here.
Thank you for the contribution.
You're welcome. So this image is the rendering of the elevations, and I think it probably tells the story a little bit more clearly. These were the elevations that were in the file, and you can see there are architectural bump outs along the way to give the design features to for the design of the townhomes. The problem we had was, and if you recall this case, there were a lot of controversy, there was opposition, and we were right at the height of Garage Gate, where we were trying to figure out garages, and we were so focused on bringing you a site plan that was compliant with the direction where council was going, that we missed the fact that our proposed building setbacks were rather one-dimensional. They didn't account for all of the architectural features. So the only thing that's changing with this application is we've now detailed what those setbacks are. Everything else is the same. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions you might have and available to answer any questions.
Council have any questions? Hearing none. Does anybody in the public wish to speak to this item? We have a motion to close, Councilman Miranda, second Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilman Miranda, I believe you're up.
Item number 8, file number REZ 26-52, order to present the first reading consideration on rezoning property within the city of 5200 South Manhattan Avenue, City of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described from Section 1 zoning district classifications, PD, plan development, PD, plan development, residential, single-family attached, providing an effective date, and with all others.
With the revised revision sheet.
Revision sheet that goes with it.
We have a motion from Councilman Miranda. We have a second from Councilman Vieira. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, motion carried unanimously with Carlson absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 4th, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Item number 9.
Thank you, Council. LaSalle Dock Development Coordination. Item 9 is REZ 25118. This is for the property located at 4714 East Hillsborough Avenue. The request is to rezone the property from CI Commercial Intensive and RS 50 Residential Single Family to PD Plan Development. This is for all CI uses, business professional office, and open storage as an accessory use. I did want to point out on the staff report, the requested zoning is listed as open storage as its own use, but it must be accessory use. So I just want to make that correction on the record. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Mr. Collins.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our next case tonight is located in the University Planning District, specifically the East Tampa Urban Village. It is in Evacuation Zone E. Subject site is located, it's on the north side of East Hillsborough Avenue, just to the west of North 48th Street. It's outlined here in purple. As you can see, the surrounding development pattern is predominantly non-residential with some more intensive commercial uses. The subject site is designated as Community Commercial 35. So again, this allows for a range of uses from residential all the way up to commercial general and commercial intensive uses. That land use pattern is predominantly found along East Hillsborough Avenue. Directly to the north of the site is residential 10. Staff reviewed the application Staff reviewed the application and found the proposed uses and FAR consistent with the underlying CC 35 designation. The request would allow the existing commercial uses, open storage, and additional carports while retaining the existing building. Because the site is within a mixed-use corridor, staff noted that maintaining the existing structure limits the ability to fully meet certain design policies in the plan, including those related to building placement and facade design. The applicant has incorporated some design improvements, including additional shade trees along East Hillsborough Avenue, which is a transit emphasis corridor, to enhance the pedestrian environment. Mobility staff also determined that a sidewalk along North 48th Street is not feasible due to limited right-of-way, utilities, and a grand tree, though the comprehensive plan continues would support the inclusion of that sidewalk if possible. Between first and second reading, the Planning Commission staff request that the following revisions be made. Number one, revise the site plan to correct the maximum permitted FAR to 2.0. The site plan currently lists a maximum of 1.2. Provide a painted crosswalk connecting the primary building entrance to the sidewalk along East Hillsborough Avenue. This would connect the entrance to the sidewalk on East Hillsborough. Provide a painted crosswalk connecting the parking carport area to the entrances along the western facade of the building to establish a defined pedestrian path and avoid pedestrian conflicts. And finally, clarify the fence wall type along the northern property line, including specifying the material and ensuring it is consistently identified on the site plan and waiver sheet. The comprehensive plan has policies that seek to ensure, that actually require non-residential uses to be appropriately buffered from residential uses, and we do have single family to the north of the site. Overall, the PD generally meets the intent of the comprehensive plan given the existing site constraints and proposed improvements. The requested revisions would further improve consistency, particularly regarding pedestrian safety and connectivity. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Does council have any questions? Councilman Miranda, do you have
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, next.
Thank you again, Chairman, Council, LaSalle Dock, Development Coordination. And this is an aerial of the subject property. So the property is outlined in red. It is located on East Hillsborough Avenue. This is 48th Street. Just for orientation, this is North 50th Street. And then further north, you have Henry Avenue. You can see that along Hillsborough Avenue, as Danny has mentioned, you have your CI zoning with the uses which are consistent with the zoning, the more intense commercial uses, the open storage, some of the vehicle sales, and other commercial uses along Hillsborough. And then further north of the site, you have the RS50 zoning, which is the residential single family, which is north and northwest of the site. And then further north, you have your residential multifamily. And then further east, you have more of that CI zoning that's on the property. So I have a few pictures I'll show you. But the north portion of the site is within that residential 50 zoning. So although the applicant has CI and is requesting all CI uses, it is this residential piece that is bringing that all in. That would all become a PD. So this is the site plan submitted by the applicant. This is Hillsborough Avenue. This property is outlined in the dotted line. This is the existing building on the site. There are some waivers with the request, and I'll review those waivers after the presentation near the end. But staff found it consistent just based upon the fact that the site exists. So some things like transparency you can't put into a wall that exists. So we just understand those existing conditions. But you can enter the site on Hillsborough, also along the east at this portion of the site. And then there are surface parking spaces located throughout the site. Some of these areas are covered with carport structures, and then the rest are surface spaces. And then I have a few pictures of the property. So this is the subject property. This is if you're on Hillsborough, looking at the site. This is the east boundary of the property. This is the other entrance to the site. This is the north boundary of the property. This is north of the subject property. That's on 48th Street. This is another view north. I just tried to get a picture of the other two residential structures further north. This is east of the subject property, the commercial use. This also is east, and this is on that residential zoning portion. And then this is south of the property, and this is across Hillsborough. So there are a total of 5 waivers requested. 1 waiver is related to natural resources. It's to 27284.3.3, and that's to reduce the required 10-foot use landscape buffer on the west. And that is to reduce it to 1 foot. That is, there's a hotel that's on the other side of the property. And then the other waivers are related to the overlay. And that's some of the existing conditions that I mentioned earlier, but 1 waiver is to increase the required front yard setback, and that's from a range of 10 to 12 feet to 19.8 feet. And there's a request to reduce the ground level transparency. That is required at 50%, and it is reduced to 20% on Hillsborough Avenue and then to 0% on 48th Street. That side street has the complete wall on that building. And there's a request to reduce the use buffer along the north from 15 foot required with a 6-foot masonry wall to 12 feet of landscape with 6-foot PVC fencing. And then the last waiver is to allow an increase in the required size of the sign. And that waiver is related to the sign and that exists. And that is also the allowable sign height that has been increased. So with that, the DRC staff finds the request consistent. There are site plan revisions to be made between first and second reading. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Council have any questions? Hearing none.
Thank you.
Mr. Michelini, you were not sworn in. You came in late, right? Oh, we have another one back there. Okay, good.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. I wasn't the only one, Sheriff.
Well, but I'm watching you. Start with your name, sir.
They're always watching me. Steve Michelini here representing the petitioner. Let me just get to the essence of this proposal. It is an existing electrical contractor's office and has been a contractor's office since 1955. And they went in to apply for permits for remodeling, and that's when it triggered all of the rezoning effort because it was not consistent. The Planning Commission has found it consistent, the staff has found it consistent, we've worked with them, and trust me that we have sat down and kind of talked about how to make this consistent because there are no planned additions for this property, but we do need to bring it into conformancy. It does promote the efficient use of the land because we're reusing exactly the same land. We do have a little difficulty with a concrete or masonry wall on the north side. There simply is not as limited room, and I think you saw that there were chain link fences along there. We'll replace those with PVC. To recognize the changing needs of the community, these people have been there and they've invested in the property, and it's clean. You could see that from the pictures. It's not offensive, and we agree with the accessory use of open storage. That's really for their electrical equipment. Their service trucks are parked on the inside, and they're all fenced up. And it is an area that where you have to be concerned about security and safety. So we've taken that into consideration. The adjacent structures were compatible with the uses within the area, and I think LaShawn pointed out there's a motel immediately to the west. And we've always enjoyed with this property, the residents have not had any complaints to my knowledge. There are no code enforcement cases pending on this, but we do need to clean it up. It's a reuse of the, we'll take care of the 2.0 FAR per Danny's request and the other requests that are contained in the waivers. I can go through the waivers if you like, but they're all existing conditions. We're asking to waive them. We cannot meet the urban design standards simply because it's a reuse. I think I will conclude my presentation and request your approval.
Thank you. Anybody in the public wish to speak to this item? Council have any questions? We have a motion to close. Councilman Miranda, second Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir. I cannot in good conscience support this. I'm sorry. I'm messing with you. He's like, what?
Again, I'm the funny one on council.
The chair mentioned that this morning. He's the only one allowed to make jokes.
There you go. There you go. We'll pass an ordinance to that effect.
Exactly.
I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 4714 East Hillsborough Avenue, City of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification, CI commercial intensive, and RS50 residential single family to PD planned development business professional office, all CI uses, and accessory open storage, providing an effective date.
I have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 4th, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you. How about we, you don't make jokes and I won't rap.
Oh,
Okay, 10. Oh,
Make sure that, just for the purposes of the record of the last hearing, Mr. Michelini did mention it, but it does include the revision sheet. Am I correct?
do we need to reopen that, make sure that's included?
To reopen, if I may.
I have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Maniscalco to reopen the hearing. And Councilman Vieira, would you please add the revision sheet? to your
Yes, sir. I
motion?
hereby add the revision sheet to the aforementioned motion.
I have a
for item
motion from
number
Councilman Vieira, I have a
whatever.
second from Councilman Miranda. I'm sorry, I missed the fact that there was a revision sheet. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Very good, thank you. Go ahead. I guess, can I have a motion to close the hearing back up? Okay, we have a motion to close from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Item number 10.
Bria Dixon, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 10 is REZ 2618. Request to rezone 3602 West Euclid Avenue from RO Residential Office to CG Commercial General. I will now now turn it over to Planning Commission staff.
Yes, sir.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I was sworn in. This next case is located in the South Tampa Planning District, specifically the Fair Oaks, Manhattan neighborhood. This request is contingent on approval of TACBA 2518, which council heard and recommended to adopt it at their hearing on April 23rd. It is scheduled for second reading next week on May 21st. The subject site is located at the southwest corner of South Himes Avenue and West Euclid Avenue. This is Britton Plaza here. There are some offices located along West Euclid Avenue on the south side, as well as some residential uses one block to the northwest of the subject site. Again, this is Britton Plaza. I think everyone's kind of familiar with the retail associated with that use. Here is the adopted future land use map. This is showing the residential 20 that's currently designates the site. Again, this is contingent on a plan amendment to the community mixed use 35 designation. So if that amendment is approved, this site would be designated as CMU 35. Britton Plaza to the southwest is designated CC 35. We have residential 20 to the east and the west and east of the site, and then CMU 35 south along Himes Avenue. To the north, we have residential 10. Planning Commission staff reviewed the application and found it consistent with several policies of the comprehensive plan. The proposed CG zoning designation would match the existing zoning of the adjacent Britton Plaza property. Any future development should incorporate the mixed-use centers and corridor design policies, particularly those intended to ensure development is compatible with surrounding area and entrances, and it is pedestrian friendly through building orientation and the placement of parking. Overall, the proposed CG district would support development that is compatible with the character of the surrounding uses and is consistent with the development pattern envisioned under the CMU 35 designation. Based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And this concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Council have any questions? Hearing none.
Bria Dixon, Development Coordination. We'll start with an area review of the subject site and the surrounding area. You can see that the subject parcel is outlined here in red. The subject site is located on the southwest corner of West Euclid Avenue and Himes, and is also north of the Selman Expressway. The subject site is currently developed with a single-story commercial structure. Here we have a survey of the subject parcel that is outlined in bold. To the north, Euclid Avenue. To the east, Himes Avenue. Pictures of the subject property. North of the subject property, looking northeast, east, looking southeast. This is Brixton Plaza, which is located south, but this is looking east. And here we have west. The subject site is approximately 0.29 acres and meets the minimum lot requirements required for CG commercial general zoning. The proposed CG zoning is compatible with the requested community mixed use CMU 35 future land use. Therefore, the requested CG zoning is consistent with the surrounding development pattern. Development Coordination and Compliance staff review the application and find the request to be consistent with the City of Planning Glen development regulations. I'm available for questions.
Council have any questions? Hearing none. Applicant?
Good evening, Council. Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation for this. It was fully consistent from staff, and the applicant's just looking to broaden those ranges of commercial uses that they can currently have on the site. So happy to answer any questions, but just given the future revamp of Britton Plaza, they see a little bit more opportunity here than just R01.
Thank you. Council have any questions for the applicant? Hearing none. Is anybody in the public who wish to speak to this item? We have a motion to close. Councilman Maniscalco, second Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilwoman Young, would you read item 10, please?
I move item number 10, file number REZ-26-18, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration and ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3602 West Euclid Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RO residential office to CG commercial general, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Young, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 4th, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you. Next. We're on a roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMont, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 11 is REZ 2626. This is a request to rezone 2602 through 2604 East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and 2603 East Ida Street from commercial intensive and RS50 to planned development for residential multiple family. This item was continued from the April 9th, 2026 hearing. I also want to note that we do have an updated revision sheet to bring into the record. Regarding the updated revision sheet, we just had we had two items under natural resources that were later reviewed by natural resources staff, updated, and essentially they weren't necessary to have on the revision sheet. one item under development coordination, same similar thing, as well as an item with the planning commission. So just less items on there for the applicant to essentially revise between first and second reading. I'll turn it over now to planning commission staff.
Danny Collins with your planning commission staff. I was sworn in. Our last case tonight is within the Central Tampa Planning District, specifically the East Tampa Urban Village. The subject site is in Evacuation Zone E. It is located at the northeast corner of North 26th Street and MLK. As you can see by the aerial, there are some non-residential uses along MLK. We have some single-family homes to the west of the subject site. This is Memorial Park Cemetery for reference to the southwest. The subject site is within two future land use designations. The southern portion of the site is designated as CC 35, and the northern portion of the site is designated residential 20. As you can see, the CC 35 is predominantly found along MLK, and then it transitions to residential 20, and then further north to residential 10. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the application and found it consistent with the underlying future land use designations of the site. Although the site spans across two future land use designations, the proposed buildings are located entirely within the CC 35 designation of the site, while the parking areas situated within the residential 20 designation. The planned development proposes a floor area ratio of 0.94, which is below the maximum FAR that can be permitted under the CC 35 designation, so the FAR is consistent. The request is consistent with the development intensity anticipated under the CC 35 and supports comprehensive plan policies that encourage multifamily housing at a slightly higher density than the surrounding single-family area. The PD also advances several of the mixed-use centers and corridor policies by locating parking behind the building and orienting primary residential entrances towards the street. In addition, the project includes bicycle storage and provides a 6-foot sidewalk around the parcel, improving pedestrian connectivity to MLK and North 26th Street. As Chris mentioned, we did have some revisions that were included on the revision sheet. In conclusion, the proposed PD is consistent with and advances several policies in the comprehensive plan. The request supports compatible residential infill in an appropriate location, incorporates design elements that enhance neighborhood character, and expands housing opportunities in the East Tampa Urban Village. Based on the above considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Staff, any questions for council? Hearing none.
Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. I'll orient you with the subject property. The subject site is located at the northeast corner of East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and North 26th Street. The site encompasses two parcels surrounding the subject property. We have Lomax Magnet Elementary School to the north. To the south, we have a city library building. East of the subject site, we do have commercial as well as residential uses. And west of the subject site, we have a place of religious assembly and commercial uses. Zoning in this area, RS50 to the north, RS50 to the east, as well as CI zoning to the east. And then to the west, we have CI zoning and RS50. And immediately south of the subject site, we have commercial neighborhood zoning. The site's also located in the East Tampa overlay and has been reviewed for compliance with the East Tampa Overlay District Design Standards. We have a site plan provided by the applicant. The proposed site plan depicts a 4-story structure with a total of 18 units in it. The building itself is oriented to East MLK Boulevard. I will note that 100% of the units within this development are affordable at 80% area median income. Looking at the site, more specific in details, the front doors for all of the units are oriented to East MLK. There is a sidewalk proposed in the front of the building, as well as walkways leading from the building out to East MLK. There is a proposed sidewalk, 6-foot sidewalk, running the length of the site along North 26th Street. There is an ingress-egress point along North 26th Street and an egress point along East Ida Street. Surface parking is provided on the northern half of the site. There's also a trash receptacle providing access for removal of solid waste. And there is also a total of 2 bicycle spaces on the site. The applicant also has a building storage for bike parking on the site located on the east side, just north of the proposed structure. Next, we have elevations. Proposed building has a max height of 39 feet 6 inches. We have the south elevation shown here, the north elevation. We have a west elevation and an east elevation. There are a total of 2 waivers with this application request. The first is to section 27-283. This is a request to reduce the required number of parking from 33 spaces down to 22 spaces. This is a 33% reduction to the overall site. And the second waiver is to section 27-284. This is a request to reduce the required 15-foot use landscape buffer and 6-foot tall masonry wall to the east to be a 10-foot landscape buffer with a 6-foot high PVC fence abutting the commercial use. I do have some photos to show. Subject site looking west. This is an internal shot looking west on the subject site. An internal site looking east. On the north half of the site, this would be on Ida. Shows some existing residential buildings there. Looking north, we have the elementary school. Looking south on East MLK, we have the library facility. Looking west across North 26th Street. One additional view, this would be at the intersection there, looking west across North 26th Street. This is looking east down East MLK from the subject site. And we have a shot taking a look down, looking west down East MLK. And Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the petition. We do find the request inconsistent with the applicable City of Tampa land development regulations. If City Council approves this application and waivers requested, the modifications to the site plan as provided on the revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading. And these revisions will not resolve the findings of the Transportation Department. And I am available for any questions.
Council have any questions? Hearing none. Applicant? The sworn in applicant.
Good evening, Council. My name is Catherine Coyle. I'm with Boggs Engineering, 601 South Alexander Street, Plant City, and I have been sworn. I'm here representing the CDC of Tampa on this new exciting project on MLK. They worked hard to assemble these properties right at the corner of 26th and Martin Luther King. This is the location. The site is approximately 23,757 square feet, little over half an acre. The request, as mentioned, CI and RS50 to PD for 18 affordable units. And as Christopher mentioned, they will all be under 80% AMI.
Under what?
80% AMI, area median income. Zoning, as was mentioned, it is a split zoning. The red is the CI, RS50 to the rear.
There was an old alley that was vacated a while back, and that splits half and half to the north and south. As was mentioned, immediately to the west on the CI portion, there is what used to probably be a little house, but it's actually car sales now. On this portion, that's the RS-50 to the west. That is a church. That's the one that had the pod and the chain link fence around it. To the east is commercially zoned, vacant immediately next to us, and then a scattering of commercial buildings. Diagonally across to the southwest is actually a large cemetery, and then the large public library to the south. Future land use, just briefly, CC 35 and R20, as was mentioned by the Planning Commission. This site is interesting. We had some significant constraints on it right from the beginning. There's been quite a few takings over time for FDOT, widening and doing some intersection improvements at 26 for the intersection. So what I've included on this slide in yellow is to show you where the sidewalk and the transit shelter actually encroach onto the property. So we will be providing an easement during a time of permitting for that. The good news is the transit shelter is right there. It's accessible at their front door. Looking at the north side of the property, looking back south, this is where there are additional encroachments. You'll notice on the site plan, and I gave you a colored version of it to highlight some issues for you. The sidewalk running along 26 will be wholly on the site because the pavement goes right to the property line, and actually at the intersection with Ida, it actually curves into the property a little bit. So we will have to be providing an easement for that as well, and a public easement for the sidewalk. Within that area also, there is a pedestrian signal, a school zone sign, a hydrant, a stormwater inlet, and a power pole with a guide wire, which we will also have to accommodate with an additional easement. So they were already dealing with a narrow site that is further constrained by additional public improvements that have been made on the property. So with that, we went through and actually laid it out, looking at different options. When we first started this project, the CDC wanted to maximize as much as they could. They could get 18 units on the front by right without any bonuses. They could get 5 units on the back. So we originally had townhomes back there. Came to a quick realization there's no places for parking or trash circulation, which is very important, and large trash trucks have to circulate through this property. And we wanted to do our best not to have the dumpster just facing the street. We wanted to bring it internal to the site, and we were actually able to make the geometry work. On top of that, you also have other site constraints, which include 3 grand trees, which we are preserving all of them. We had a pruning report from Mr. Pederica, who was here earlier tonight. So we've worked around every obstacle possible to make this actually happen and make it fit. And I highlighted in the pink right there, we're actually putting an additional storage building for additional bike parking. One issue that I have with the renderings, and I'll try to have them for second reading, the artist that did this neglected to put the windows and the doors. They're on the elevations and the site plan. So they're correct on the actual adopted version. This is just to show you an example of what it actually would look like in the setting. It has kind of an Asian flair to it, what they're going for, and they've included big platforms on each level, so there's a lot of outdoor space. It is 4 stories, but the caveat to that is the 4th story is simply the second floor of the 2 3-bedroom units. It's not a full 4th floor. With that, I'm available for any questions, and we respectfully request your approval.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I am just amazed the ability to make this site with all the constraints and be able to keep the trees. And this is the kind of stuff that we like to see. But I do want to say that the design is really phenomenal. It is. I mean, we had some really boring ones tonight, but this is really unique, and I'm really excited to see what it would look like. I'm also, happy with the CDC's commitment to 80% AMI, but really, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. So I'm in awe. Yay. I don't say that often, so. Thank you.
Councilwoman Young.
Are these container homes?
They actually are. Yes.
Yes. This is my first time actually seeing the rendering.
I wanted to see if you would catch it.
Yeah, but when I was looking at it, I was like, these look like container homes.
They are.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah, the company that's actually designing and building these is opening up a warehouse up in Pasco County and a manufacturing plant to actually build them to start pushing them out. And they tried to do this in Lakeland, which they got approved for. They haven't built it yet. So this will be the first one, I think, that'll come out of the ground, actually, which is pretty exciting.
It's so interesting to see how, things that were talked about, like, a few years ago, it was like, oh, there's not going to be any container homes ever. And now it's actually coming to fruition. But I think it is, I think it's really exciting. It's going to be a great project.
Thank you.
Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? Hearing none, can I get a motion to close? We have a motion to close. Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilwoman Young, would you please read item up? Oh, did you just read the last one? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, she did.
I did read the last
Did
one.
you? Jeez,
That's
okay.
why- That's why I had my light on. It was my turn.
Well, there you go. Councilwoman Herzog.
File number RAZ 26-26, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, and ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2602 and 2604 East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and 2603 East Ida Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RS50 residential single family and CI commercial intensive to plan development to PD, plan development, residential, multifamily, providing an effective date along with the revision sheet.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilwoman Herzog. We have a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Well, that concludes
Motion
our.
carried.
Thank you.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 4th, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you. That concludes our regular scheduled program. We are now ready for new business. Councilman Vera.
Yes, sir. I do have a couple quick ones and then one potentially not quick, we'll see. This is one. Y'all know Victor Hedman with the Lightning. He had spoken out about some mental health challenges that he had that caused him to miss part of the season. I wanted to mail him a Tampa City Council commendation just for his speaking out as a public figure on mental health, something that's so important. Just gonna mail it. If he wants to do something great, I doubt it. But I just think we ought to recognize that. I think that's important.
We have a motion from Councilman Vera. We have a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you very much, Council. My second and last motion, if I may, is I had referenced that early this morning, which started the whole discussion on the raise, God help us. And what I'm looking for, Council, is there's been discussions that I've had between the raise and Hillsborough County firefighters, as well as Tampa Firefighters Local 754 and Tampa Police Benevolent Association on if the stadium comes. And to support this, by the way, this is not a statement of yay or nay on the stadium, because I don't know how I'm going to vote on or anything of that nature. But I do think that we ought to put on the forefront making sure that we have proper accommodations for public safety, police, and fire. So my motion is a motion of statement of support from Tampa City Council, whether merely in a motion or it could be in a formal correspondence, for any potential race stadium in Tampa to include a dedicated substation presence for Tampa Police Department and Tampa Fire Rescue as part of this project. For Tampa Fire Rescue, this would be fire protection services and EMS space at the stadium. Again, this is something that is being discussed should this pass, and there's so many hoops to go through this. But I think it's early for us, and it's beneficial for us to early on say that this is something that we should insist on as a Tampa City Council. Again, this is something that's arisen in numerous discussions, something that has support from our local unions for police and fire. And my issue is that if this does come, whether or not I support it, whether or not others support it, we want to make sure that we don't make a tough situation tougher for our cops and our firefighters out there. So that's my motion.
A motion from Councilman Miranda, a second from?
I just know Mr. Miranda, he made the motion.
I'm sorry,
Vera.
motion from
I
Councilman
know we look
Vera.
alike.
A second from? Second from Councilwoman Young.
I want to speak to that.
Okay, Councilman Miranda, followed by Maniscalco.
I understand what he's saying, but I don't know exactly who is going to be responsible for the payment of their services at each one of them. As I understand it now, we cover the cost of police and fire during the event, but now there's also the sheriff's involved in that. So we're talking about different agencies between the county and the city, and I'd rather leave that to the negotiation between the city, the county, to come up, because I don't know what's going to happen there. I really don't. And it's a good recommendation that you're making, but I think before we go that far, we got to find out who is doing what and what's the cost going to be. I think currently it costs the city, and I may be a little off, like $250,000 an event, and I don't know, that was in $1999, $1996. I don't know what the dollars are going to be in 2027. So there's a lot of things that have to be discussed.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Councilman Maniscalco.
And also, don't forget that TPD substate, District 1's building is right there on Tampa Bay, facing the site. So, I mean, there's already the place. So I don't know, I haven't, I don't know how the police feel. Do you think we should wait on this? I mean, it's premature. We have stuff coming up next week and whatnot, and then bring up the motion.
And may I respond to this?
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you very much, sir. So this is something that is supported by the police union and the fire union. This is, I've obviously spoken with them before. This is something that's come out of our talks with the Rays, because my thing is, whether or not we support this, I want to make sure, speaking to our fire chief and our police chief and management is great. They have so much, obviously.
Have you spoke to the administration? They might be doing something. I don't know what they're doing.
So without getting into it, we have had relevant discussions. I don't want to say with the administration or with who, but this is something where Tampa City Council should take a stand in saying that if this comes, there ought to be a substation presence there, as our firefighters and our police officers have requested. Whether or not we ultimately support it, because again, we don't want to make a bad situation worse for our police officers and our firefighters.
I'm all for the police and fire. Go on.
Yeah, Councilwoman Hurtak.
So what is this motion? Is this just a recommendation?
Would be a statement of support. We can either do it through correspondence or merely just a statement of support. This is nothing binding. This would defer, because as Councilman Miranda wisely said, which is the administration would deal with a lot of the discretionary issues, but our statement at least saying that there should be some sort of substation presence there. The details can be worked out by the powers that be. We're not the administration.
So I would support that if you brought that motion next Thursday after we have a substantive discussion and vote on the MOU. I support what you're saying. I think that I don't want to put too much of the cart before the horse, because it is a really important topic, and I think we all do agree that if it goes forward, but let's see if it goes forward, and then I think a motion is absolutely 100%.
So, if may I, Mr. Chair?
Let me stop, because I don't see any harm in. Because if I get what you're proposing, there's nothing. Again, it's nothing binding. It's just an intent, and it's a signal and a message of the importance we place on if we end up developing this. So I don't see any harm in moving this forward. I think it's well spoken, well placed, and I think that. Obviously, this is a very pro-police, council, and pro-fire department council, and having just council's intention.
We're all meeting with the mayor one at a time, from what I understand. Why don't we just wait? I'm for it, but I mean, let's give the both sides. From what I understand, we're supposed to have a meeting with the mayor for 30 minutes each or something. Coming up very short, within a day or two.
Okay.
May I? So I would call for a vote on this if everyone's comfortable voting for this. I don't want someone to feel like they have to vote against it because they don't have enough information on it, as a courtesy to my colleagues, if that makes sense.
I'm for it.
So, as a courtesy to the fine gentleman over there, I'll put it off to next week. However, I would say this, which is I do take the statement here, which I think everybody supports, which is if this does come, having some sort of a physical substation presence there is good. But as a courtesy to y'all too who want more information, I'm glad to do that. But but let it be known, it's coming back next week. So there you go. But obviously. So motion withdrawn until next week as a courtesy to those fine two the last two members of our Tampa Hispanic, or Tampa City Council Hispanic Caucus. So there you go.
Okay, do you have any other new business?
No, sir, that's it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Young.
Thank you. I have two motions, and then I just wanted to make a comment. My first motion is I move to make a motion to present an off-site commendation to the esteemed members of Alpha Alpha Theta Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, honoring the chapter's 8th anniversary to be celebrated on June 27, 2026.
Mr. Chair, may I say something on that?
Councilman Bureau.
So it's funny, I was in contact with, D. Jones, there, who's a dear friend of mine. I saw it was in Hunter's Green, and I live literally 2 minutes from there, so I'll be joining you.
Oh, great.
I love Dee, and they're good folks over there,
So just for clarity, Councilwoman Young, that's an off-site presentation?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, we have a motion for Councilwoman Young, a second from? Second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, and my second motion is a request by the Planning Commission setting adoption hearing for TACPA 26-04, 26-05, 26-06, 26-07, and 26-08 on September 24, 2026 at 5:01 p.m. and direct the legal department to provide the city clerk with the form of notice for advertising the public hearing.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilwoman Young, a second from?
Second.
Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. And just want to take a moment to, this week I made a couple of comments on social media just talking about, the importance of youth and engaging our youth. And it's something that I've spoken about plenty of times, even, prior to me being a council member. I've always been a strong advocate of just supporting our youth. And so I just, wanted to say that, when you think about Hillsborough County, so Hillsborough County Public Schools, we are the 3rd largest school district in Florida, in the state of Florida. We are the 7th largest in the nation. So we serve about over 200,000 students in Hillsborough County. And so when we talk about investments in youth, what I would love to see is, a collaborative and a comprehensive and a cohesive approach to how we invest in our youth in this city. I think the same way that we, invest in our infrastructure, the same way that we invest in, affordable housing, we need to put that same amount of investment and interest into the youth of our city. One of the things that I also would love to see is us being more proactive instead of reactive. I think that, what's happening now, the conversation is good, and that, there's events and things that we're doing, to kind of, have safe places for our youth. But what I would love to see is a more proactive approach, not something happens and then we decide that, it's time to start, really having this conversation. One of the reasons when we were talking about the surplus funding, I was very, adamant about, yes, we need to support our nonprofits, especially those that work with youth, because they do a lot of work in the community. Some of them are rubbing 2 pennies together just to do work and continue to do the work. Advocating for the Teens Leading Change program, and advocating for more summer youth programming. So putting the money behind our youth. What our office is going to be working on is a comprehensive youth investment strategy that talks about, that brings all the partners in, everybody that's doing the work, education, mental health, job training, work, everything, putting everything together and seeing how we as a city can really invest in our youth as a whole and as a collaborative. And it can be done, and so that's something that I'm, really passionate about, and I'm hoping that, I can work with this council, with our, city administration, our county, with Hillsborough County Public Schools, our nonprofits, everybody, so that we can really work together and see, okay, how can we create an environment to where our youth are secure, that they're safe, and that they have a place. We are I think top 5 for a place for our furry friends, and I have a dog. We need to be top for youth and families as well. So that's my soapbox. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Young.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to commend Councilwoman Young on the statements that you had made on our youth and you know, the school to prison pipeline and the different things that we have to do. Something I would suggest is we're getting set up the Office of Returning Citizens here in the city of Tampa. I've only got 5 or 6 months left. But you know, that could be a great thing, especially for those families and the kids affected in those families to reach out, not just using government resources, but private sector. So there's a lot there. So I wanted to commend you just for your voice on that, because it's passionate and well taken.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you. And you know, we have a conversation next week. It's about $180 million. Who knows? Could be spending it on that.
You know,
Anyway.
perfect timing to be
It
on my
is.
soapbox.
Yep. So, speaking of, because the Raise MOU has been added to our agenda next week, I move to remove the NRAC appointments from the from the May 21st, 2026 agenda to a date to be determined.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Miranda.
The NRAC appointments, we were going to do the mayoral and so I'm just moving that. Yeah.
Okay, I fully support that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Shelby.
I'm Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney, just concerned how, I guess we have to make sure that's communicated to the appropriate parties to inform if anybody is planning to have somebody
Can the
attend.
clerk make sure these
Why don't we
applicants
make
know about it?
Let's make a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion to have the clerk send an email to all the applicants to make sure they do not appear on May 21st at regular council. Oh, well, there you go. So, and you know why? Because my office reached out to Sue Ling to talk about this, so she knew this motion was coming. Just gonna throw it out there.
No, it's perfect. Thank you.
That's a good collaboration
So
with
I
the clerk.
don't need a motion.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Councilman Maniscalco.
Was the event tomorrow evening discussed with TPD at the NFL Yet Center?
No.
Okay, so just a friendly reminder, TPD is hosting an event tomorrow from 8 p.m. to 12 at the NFL Yet Center. Google it for the address. I think it's going to be good. You know, people are sharing it all over social media, and you know, bring your kids, families, bring your young people, and that's it. Look forward to seeing folks there.
I can't be there tomorrow. I'm at the aquarium early.
Okay. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to remove my commendation presentation to Ramon Perez, Gilberto Rivera Jr., and Willie Martinez from May 21st agenda and put it on the June 18th agenda due to 2 of the recipients being out of town on the 21st. That means one will be at the Preakness, the other will be at the Belmont.
Okay. I have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Well, hold on a second. I haven't spoken yet. Councilman Maniscalco, would you make sure that you reach out if they still want to do those presentations next week? Do you make sure they understand 10 and 15 minutes for time?
Next Thursday?
Yeah. Okay, sweet, very good. And for those of you that don't know, I returned last night from a trip to Barranquilla representing the city. I did, I think. It ended up being both a economic trip and a diplomatic trip. What I'll do is I'll submit a written report to y'all, so I'll bore everybody with it, but it was very interesting. Councilman Miranda, then
Are you
Councilman
going to make
Hurtak.
it in Spanish?
Dos cervezas, por favor.
I got him, didn't I?
¿Dónde está el baño?
Cerveza, por favor.
¿Dónde está el baño? Actually, here's the funny thing. So I'm with the mayor of Barranquilla, and it was a big delegation. It was quite formal, lots of media and all this. And I was making a joke. Imagine that. So because he was asking about whether I spoke Spanish, and I said, ¿Dónde está el baño? And he took me seriously. He started pointing out in the direction.
Well, he heard you.
Yeah, exactly. Council.
For members of the public, I'm just, because the city again is, one of the sister cities of Tampa is,
Barranquilla.
and the country is
Colombia.
Colombia.
Such a beautiful country.
It was very pretty.
I adore Colombia.
In a nutshell, too, what I will tell you is the sister city. If you went there, you would see so much similarities. It's the oldest sister city Tampa has. The city of Tampa has helped them over the years, including back years ago, back when it was more a poor town, they gave them traffic lights. They also gave them our Parks and Recs book on some technical specs on parks. So you go to their parks, if you blink your eyes, you'd think you're in Tampa. They have a river walk, which is, by the way, spectacular, including the statue of Shakira. And Sophia, what's her name from Modern Family? Yeah, actually, and pretty good. But, okay, this will spark some controversy. They have a wheel over the water. But by the way, I don't remember what the mayor told me, though. It was in 4 months, like 100,000 people have paid to ride the thing. It was crazy. There was the amount of people that have ridden this thing. But it's a very densely populated city with amazing bike lanes and promenades and walking, and they value architectural history and ensuring that they're the older homes. They have some beautiful examples of colonial and mid-century modern type of homes, and that they've protected. Our USF has, I met with the president of the university there. They have a cooperative agreement. They have 15 agreements with USF. So they do student exchange and professor exchanges. So it really was a fascinating trip. We had a lot of business leaders, a lot of business with our shipping industry, and they made a lot of contacts. We had a lot of people there that made contacts, which we wired them up. We had it all wired together. So I thought it was a very productive trip. But anyway, so maybe I don't have to provide a written report next. Okay. Councilwoman Hurtak.
I just had a question, because we have 2 staff reports about fire rescue and the related group, just because next week's going to be insane.
Councilwoman.
Can't move it.
Unfortunately, that fire issue is very pressing in the People's
Okay.
Republic of New Tampa. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, just thought I'd ask.
I mean, can they provide a written report on the response times? No? Okay. Okay, can motion to receive and file from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. We're adjourned.